This is NXT superstar Dexter Lumis, and I want you to do me a favor. Check out GoodMicWork commentaries on YouTube. Listen to the podcast, subscribe. And if you don't, we're gonna have a problem.
We are back, third night in a row here on the YouTube channel. What's going on, everyone? Raw for July 20th, 2020 has just ended, and we're here with a review. We are 24 hours removed from one of the worst and just most head-scratching pay-per-views in history. We were live reacting to it last night. Almost wish I would have done a review instead, but I thought the horror show at Extreme Rules had the potential to not suck. And of course, I was way wrong on that. So we'll try to have fun with that tonight. We'll elaborate a little bit more on it because I think I just reacted last night. We didn't really hang out that long after the show to discuss it. So we'll do a little bit of that here as we discuss the events of tonight's Monday Night Raw, which apparently was a shit show based on the reports online today. They got a really late start on the tapings due to some, I guess, personnel people being unavailable in terms of staff, wrestlers, whatever. They had to do a lot of rewrites. There was a story about the script being torn up and starting over. So it sounded like it was a clusterfuck and not a pleasant environment to be in today. At least that's what we heard, prior to the show. So, they kind of threw this together. The only match we had advertised was the Big Show and Randy Orton unsanctioned match, which they've been talking about for about a week. And we knew that would probably be the main event, but we had literally no idea at all about any of the other matches or segments tonight. And I guess tonight, I'd probably say Raw was better than last night's show because we had a couple of, I suppose, interesting things and a couple of interesting announcements. But for the most part, pretty terrible Raw as usual. And I'm a little worried about what the ratings are going to say tomorrow. But hello to everybody that is in here again for the third straight night. Dre and Victor and Zap and K-Dog's Kennel, Midwest Goon, Joshua, Big J, Scott, Stone Cold, Arnez, Victor, JL, Arthur. All right, we'll see what kind of, and Ronnie is here too. We'll see what kind of audience we have this week. Last week was our lowest ever viewership for a Monday Night Raw review ever in the history of this channel, by a long shot too. Like it was, blew it away. So let's hope that a few more people are interested in talking about Monday Night Raw tonight, because we are probably not going to be too kind to WWE. Looking back after last night and with all of the shit that they left us hanging with, I don't know if it's because they just don't know what the hell they're doing. I don't know if it was because they were being lazy, or if it's because the TV ratings are so bad, they need to give people a reason to tune in. I mean, they left us hanging. There was two champions we didn't even know the outcome of. We had no idea if MVP was champion or Apollo or if the belt's forfeited. We didn't know if Sasha was champion or not, even though we had a feeling she didn't win the belt. We didn't even know really who won the swamp match at the end, even though we saw The Fiend. They just left us hanging there with so much shit, and that's supposed to be a pay-per-view, and I thought it was terrible. I thought last night's show, with what I saw on paper and everybody in the wrestling community shitting on it, I was the one that was saying, you know what, look at it. It might not suck. I mean, we got Sasha and Asuka on this card, and there's some potential here. And there were moments of good wrestling last night, but unfortunately it was, surrounded by so much garbage that it was people being known too kind to the WWE on social media in the last 24 hours. So we'll do a little of that here tonight, too, as we talk about Raw. What would you grade Raw tonight, in terms of what we've been seeing lately? Well, I don't even remember what the hell happened last week, but compared to last week's Raw, was it better, worse? I thought tonight's Raw was just typical of this time of what we're going to look back on as the worst year ever in the world and definitely in wrestling. 2020, it just continues to get worse, doesn't it? But we'll see. And those of you who are getting in here early and everything, if you could do me a favor and just keep the thumbs up button smashed for me, I'd appreciate it. And hopefully I will not have to consume too much beer tonight as we talk about some of this crap. But let's discuss Raw, because there's a couple of things I wanted to mention right off the bat, and it started out in kind of a surprising way. Seth Rollins kicked off the show. Now, that's not surprising based on what we saw last night in that ridiculous match with Rey Mysterio that, we were all thinking when we were reacting to it last night, and we were like, holy crap, this is going to be a live match, which you know what that means. They're going to have to pull something really hokey or really stupid to actually make it look like an eyeball's coming out. We thought that there was going to be a cinematic effect to this match. Maybe they would do some CGI. It was definitely going to be taped and edited, is what I was assuming. But I was kind of thinking it was going to be the same style as like Gargano and Ciampa. Yeah, it was a match and there was a ref there, but it still had a boneyard match type of feel to it. You know what I mean? So I was kind of thinking we'd get something like that, but we got an actual match in the ring, in a match that has a stipulation that's so gruesome, so brutal. You have to remove the eyeball of another person, and they're in the ring doing arm drags and rest holds and shit. I'm like, you should be fighting for your life. You're fighting for your vision. You're fighting for your eyeballs. And the fact that they're in there having a regular wrestling match when you got a stipulation that's so gnarly, I thought it just doesn't make any sense. Who watches this shit? This product is really made for either really young people or really stupid people, because it was ridiculous. And it sucks because Seth Rollins in the ring, I respect the shit out of. I don't even really completely hate the Monday Night Messiah gimmick. I like it a lot better than what he was doing near the tail end of his babyface run there. And of course, Rey is a goddamn legend. So these two guys shouldn't be reduced to this. And of course, they do the finish last night where they smash Rey's eye into the corner of the steps, and he holds in his hand what was a fake eyeball. It didn't even look like it was a fake eyeball, like from a Halloween store. It looked like it was one of those fishing bobbers that you would put on your fishing pole when you cast it off into the lake or whatever. So it just looked terrible. It was so hokey. They actually went there and made it seem like his eyeball was in his hand, and then would go on to tell us later on in the show and in the opening segment here of Raw that whatever the fucking word is, the Gorilla would know it, Gorilla Monsoon, the occipital cutuberous luberous or whatever the fuck, was not completely detached from the eye, and Rey is going to be able to make a full recovery. Your eye was in your hand. I'm pretty sure if your eye's in your hand, you ain't seeing out of that eye again. I ain't no doctor, though. But the fact that they went out of their way last night and tonight to tell us that he's going to be okay, it wasn't completely detached, and basically, it's like the match never happened. Yeah, you ripped your eyeball out, we just stuck it back in. No big deal. So it was silly. We knew it was going to be a silly and a hokey concept, but some of the other matches were like that too, and they turned out to be good. When they announced that Funhouse match at WrestleMania, I'm like, you got to be kidding me. What are they doing? And it turned out to be one of the more entertaining things we've ever seen. Not the case here. I thought that the match was so stupid sounding that it was going to be like so bad it's good type of thing, but it was so bad it's bad. And the finish was just ridiculous, and I think Mysterio and Rollins both deserve better than that, to be honest with you. But anyway, Seth's out there in the ring. He's doing his typical Seth thing. He's kind of blaming the fans, blaming everybody else for forcing him to do what he had to do. You asked for this, and the only reason, we were playing ping pong with Rey's eyeball last night is because you made me do it. You made me rip his eye out. And we can't forget about Seth's puking last night as well, with him winning a match and throwing up. This is the type of shit that should be reserved for talent that isn't doing shit and you can't think of anything to do with, and give him something wacky to do and see if it gets over. Some of the greatest, Attitude Era stars, well, maybe not greatest stars, but some of the more over stars got over that way, like Head Cheese and shit like that, Like, give these silly things to people who need it, not to people who should be main eventing pay-per-views based on their names and names alone and no stipulation necessary at all. So to do all of that with them, I thought was just silly, and it was fucking dumb. And so now you got Seth out in the ring, blaming everybody else for his problems, and for Rey's eye problems, I guess. And that's when Aleister Black comes out to the stage, sticking up for Rey Mysterio again. He, in a really good spot, I actually like this opening segment where Black attacks Surfy Murphy and beats the piss out of him on the outside of the ring, which is great. Kind of like rendering him, helpless later on, because he's scheduled. They did advertise that prior to the show. It was going to be Aleister Black taking on Seth Rollins. So I kind of like Black going after Murphy to kind of neutralize him so he won't be a factor in the one-on-one match. So they go to commercial and they come back, and we get about a 20-minute match between Seth Rollins and Aleister Black, which, again, I think is a pay-per-view quality match given the right storyline or title belt or whatever. There's no reason why this shit shouldn't main event, and there's no reason why Aleister Black shouldn't be a big star. And they go on to have a great match, and Seth Rollins just beats him clean. with the curb stomp. They did the angle where he injured his arm, really, really worked the arm hard in the match, and that wound up doing Aleister Black in, and he just wasn't able to really mount that much of an offensive with that bummed arm, and Rollins was able to stomp him and pin him, and it surprised a lot of people. And when you think about Aleister Black, do you realize he has not lost? And shout out to Sean Ross Sapp, who's keep tabs on these things. I know he's lost some matches, but he has not lost like a clean, straight up one-on-one match in over 1 year. To me, they should have made a bigger deal about that. Holy shit, it's Black's first loss, or one of the announcers, especially somebody like Samoa Joe, who I would expect to care about things like this, should be the one to like let the fans know, you know what, it's been a long time since anybody beat this guy straight up ever, since he's been in WWE. Now, a lot of people were complaining online. On Twitter tonight, I saw the word jobber. I saw the words enhancement talent used on social media to describe Aleister Black. And I'm like, look, I ain't no fan of this either. First of all, this is not that big of a deal. Look at who he lost to. He lost to a top guy in a good match. That doesn't make you a jobber. It just means you lost. That's it, especially since you haven't lost in so long. But since he hasn't lost like that in so long, I kind of thought it would have been better to turn it into a thing. They never mentioned it. No mention of it at all prior to this, and no mention it here tonight in the match either. And I think they should have, because they have been somewhat protecting Aleister Black. Even in some of the matches he has lost, there's been a lot of interference and other shit going on. They've done a lot of DQs and double DQs with him in order to protect him being beaten here. So when you lose to somebody that, you know, is at the top of your card, somebody that owns multiple victories in pay-per-view main events over Brock Lesnar, you are not a jobber. You are not buried, and that's when the fans' anger gets ahead of themselves, and then it's like they all know that they hate WWE. They just really don't know why. And I had a nice conversation with a kid today on Twitter. You know, it was like, well, if he's not a jobber, what is he then? You know, I'm like, what do you mean? He lost one match in a year. So I wouldn't classify it as a jobber. I think we can all agree that we didn't want Aleister Black to lose, but let's not cloud that with a bunch of dumb shit. You know, let's not be stupid about it. You know, he's not a jobber. He didn't get buried. And if you see what happened after the match, after he lost, Murphy and Seth continued the attack on that bad arm, and it was becoming apparent at the end of the match that they were writing him off TV, slamming his arm on the announce table and wound up stomping the arm. So apparently Aleister Black might be off of TV for a while. I don't think it's COVID related, because if he had tested positive, he wouldn't be out there working. But maybe he's got to have some surgery. Maybe there's something going on there. Whatever they're doing with him, he's off TV for a while. And that's apparent now. So maybe he comes back with Ray. Maybe he's just sitting out for a while. I don't really know what the story is there. If you guys have read anything on that, let me know. Otherwise, I'm sure we'll hear something tomorrow. But it appears that he's like at least temporarily written off. And maybe when he comes back, you know, he can hopefully become something. Because even though he hasn't lost at all on TV and they've had him protected in that way, he certainly hasn't felt like a main eventer. He's felt like an afterthought. He's felt like a mid-card, undercard guy. You know, even when he's involved with Seth Rollins and stuff, it just doesn't feel like he's involved in any top priority storylines really at all, other than just being a piece or a player in it instead of being a focal point of it. And I think he's got a good enough gimmick that he can have a really cool storyline with anybody, including Seth Rollins. So there is a chance here that everything's set up here with Aleister Black, because whenever he does return to TV, he's just not going to let that shit slide. So this might actually be the beginning of Aleister Black and Seth Rollins involved in a program. And if Aleister Black is back quick enough, and this is just a quick TV angle, and he's off TV 2 weeks, and he comes back and sets up a SummerSlam match with Seth Rollins, then there you go. Aleister Black is now involved in something meaningful. And he's involved in WWE. I know a lot of people don't like Seth, but he's involved in WWE's top angles with this Monday Night Messiah bullshit. And Seth Rollins is always going to have a program, and he's always going to have an opponent. And he, unlike Aleister Black, isn't somebody that WWE is just going to leave off of TV for weeks at a time. So Black being associated with him now could be good. It just depends on what the reports are. Is this some legit time off that Aleister is taking, or is this just storyline and he'll be back in 2 weeks? I don't know. You know, they could report, WWE.com could report that his arm is broken and he'll be out 3 or 4 months or whatever. I don't know. So it just depends on that. But either way, I think when he comes back, he's going to have at least a match and hopefully a lengthy program with Seth Rollins. And maybe he can be the one to finally end the Monday Night Messiah or something like that. Because Aleister Black, in my mind, I mean, when you look at the roster right now, Drew McIntyre, I think, and we're going to talk about him in a minute, his only real logical opponent at this point for SummerSlam is Randy Orton. But what about after that? You should start thinking about Aleister Black as a world title contender, especially with Roman gone and so many others not around. If he can't make a splash and he can't make an impact now with everything so weak, when is he? I don't know. It just depends. You guys are probably going to know better than me on that stuff, so you can help fill me in. Let me bust out a couple of super chats before we get into our big title change of the night. Brand new 24/7 champion. Big news. Huge news, man. Broke the internet. Who'd I miss first here? WWFE fan 22. Thanks for the $2. I hit the thumbs up every time. I know you do, man. I appreciate that very much. And WWE fan again. Thanks again for $5 more. I have read Ray hasn't signed a new deal yet. GoodMicWork, do you have any news on this? No, I don't have any news. I know that Ray has been working without that contract, and I'm sure WWE has been offering him a new one every chance they get. He has not yet signed one. I think he will. We talked about that. A lot of people think it would be cool for Ray to go to AEW. So do I. I just don't think that's realistic. I think Ray's got a strong enough relationship with WWE. They would not let him work without a contract if he didn't. Plus, you got to think about Dominic. And in all honesty, I know we have our issues with WWE, but if you have a kid and you want them to get into wrestling, I would want them to go to the Performance Center. You got Shawn there, you got Triple H there, you got Regal there, you got just an unbelievable amount of talent, great coaches, some of the best people in the business in history are there, molding the next crop of wrestlers for the future. So as a father, I'm staying with WWE just, for my son's benefit. If I didn't have a son, if Dominic wasn't going to be a wrestler and he wanted to be a computer software programmer instead, then maybe I jump over to AEW and take a big payday from Tony Khan. They'll shell out the bucks for him, and he can go in there and have some fun. But, his bread is buttered in WWE. He'll be a Hall of Famer. He'll be a headliner Hall of Famer. And I think WWE will do a good job, of making Ray that legendary figure that he really deserves to be. I think he's the most influential guy in the last 30 years, to be honest, in terms of what he's done for smaller guys getting opportunities. There was a time when Bret Hart, who wrestled at 235 pounds, was considered too small to win the title. And now it's to the point where guys like Bret have 50 or 60 pounds on some other guys that have won world titles. So Ray's done a lot, and I think he should just stick with WWE in the end, and I think that's what he'll wind up doing. After the Rollins and Black match, we had Ron Simmons. He kind of interacted a little bit with MVP and Bobby Lashley backstage. I thought this was cool because everybody's kind of been comparing the faction that MVP is trying to create here to maybe a new Nation of Domination or something. So the fact that Ron Simmons showed up there, I thought that was very cool. You also had Shelton Benjamin present there, and R-Truth. MVP helps Shelton Benjamin beat R-Truth right there backstage for the 24/7 title. And Shelton is your new champ. And then he goes out to the ring with Lashley and MVP. So I don't know if I missed something. Did he officially join their crew here, or was he just with them for tonight? Or is he on a tryout period with MVP while he analyzes Shelton or whatever? I don't know. But the three of them are out there in the ring cutting a promo. They're interrupted by Ricochet and Cedric Alexander, who both are just absolutely atrocious on the mic. And it's not totally their fault. This is some serious elementary school shit right here that's just written. Who comes up with this stuff? These are just like the worst promos ever. I can't believe that WWE thinks their ideas would be better than anything the wrestlers would come up with. Just let Ricochet and Cedric figure it out, because even if what they come up with sucks, it'll still be better with what WWE came up with. So I don't even know what they said. A couple of dumbass nursery rhymes and said some stupid shit. But anyway, they're out there to have a 6-man match, but there's only 2 of them. And they're going to bring back somebody, and he's making his return, and blah, blah, blah. And here he is, our partner, Mustafa Ali. Mustafa Ali shows back up. The hacker has debuted, finally. We've been waiting for him. I mean, I'm glad to see Ali. I think he's awesome. We all love him. But, after they just inexplicably dropped the hacker angle, although they could, I suppose, bring it back, Ali was kind of one of the guys rumored for that. I'm almost thinking that WWE, like a lot of things, they started doing something and never knew what the payoff was going to be, and now they've decided to drop it with no explanation. And now, lo and behold, out of the blue, Mustafa Ali is back on TV having matches. So great, but what's this going to lead to for him? Is he on Raw now? I thought he was on SmackDown last I remember. He might be on Raw. Who knows? I guess it doesn't matter. There's no brand split anyway. But is he there now? Great. But if we've seen what WWE's been doing on TV with Cedric and Ricochet, why am I excited about Ali? You know, he's a perfect example of WWE just not knowing what the hell to do with anybody. And the babyfaces got the win here, which I was surprised. I thought, you know, we kind of had, you know, Shelton joining them for the first time, but you also had Ali coming back. I was almost thinking that regardless of who loses here, it's going to kind of suck for them. But the babyfaces won. Ali hit the big 450 deal on MVP for the pin, and the babyfaces get their little moment. And it was a good match. There was one great spot where Ali dove like just 100 miles an hour, just dove right through the ropes, hits MVP and Lashley. Lashley goes flying back on the announce table. Great looking spot there and an exciting match, but you know, babyfaces win. Great. They're probably going to wind up losing in the long run when they do a rematch or another combination next week. It's either going to be a tag match or it's going to be, actually, it's probably going to be Ali and MVP next week one-on-one, I bet you, since Ali pinned him here. And then maybe you do a tag with the others or some shit, and R-Truth will probably get involved and win his title back. I don't know, but whenever this like faction, whenever it finally comes together and they give it a name, what are they calling it something now? They're calling it Hurt Factory or some shit. What is he saying? Somebody's the CEO of a Hurt Factory, and that would, I don't know. Maybe they're going to call it the Hurt Factory or whatever the hell that is. But whenever it has a name and it actually becomes a thing officially, you know, then maybe it'll be good. MVP's a great centerpiece. He's a great mouthpiece. He's good on the mic. He'd make a great leader of a faction or a great mouthpiece of a faction anyway, who occasionally wrestles. And I hope they do something with it, and it's not, you know, lazy, phoned in, and they don't break up the faction 6 weeks after it starts, which is what we've seen with like Andrade and Garza and all their problems and shit. So yeah, I don't know. Let's see, how's it going over here in the chat? Yeah, not a very big audience in here, but yeah, what can you expect? It's Raw. Really interested to see what the ratings are going to be tomorrow for Raw after last week. Devlin, no, the show was not very good. I mean, I had a couple, like I said, the Seth and Black match was really good. I think a lot of people had problems with the outcome, but, you know, if you just look a little deeper, it might not be as bad as you think. But the match itself was good. Even Mustafa Ali returning and having their little six-man was good, but in the end, none of the shit meant anything at all. Another really good tag team match. Oh, wait, we're not there yet. I'll mention that in a minute. We were given a series of promos next. We had a Randy Orton backstage promo hyping up his match later on with the Big Show. Then we did a Zoom call with Samoa Joe and Christian. Christian had a few things to say. This is when I dipped out and got some stuff done, did some laundry and did some other shit. So it was on and I was listening to it. Didn't really hear what he said. Probably doesn't matter. After that, we got a Bianca Belair promo backstage, which is really good to see her still around, and they didn't just bring her back once and then forget about her again. So she's there, and we got a rematch between Ruby Riott and Peyton Royce, and I was very excited about this. I'm like, there's no way. I was like, there's no way. I thought there was no way Peyton Royce would beat her the first time, and she did, and I had to join the circus and everything. So now that there's a rematch, I'm like, nope, Ruby's kind of, you know, she's got some friends now with Liv Morgan, maybe rekindling their former alliance. Bianca Belair's kind of buddying up with Ruby as well. She's got some more confidence. She's got some backup. She's not going to go down to one half of the Iconics again. And she beats Peyton Royce, who is, you know, to her credit, getting better in the ring. And she should. I mean, she's with Shawn Spears, right? You know, if the two of them are working out in their free time, I'm sure that he's teaching her some things. So that's good. Peyton's getting better, and let's hope she continues to get better. But I'm definitely glad that Ruby finally got on the winning ways here, at least one-on-one on Raw. Next up was just a fabulous tag team match. It was non-title, Street Profits taking on Andrade and Angel Garza. Just really good stuff here because these teams are awesome. They're continuing still this like tension with Garza and Andrade. Things are going pretty well for them in the match, and it's a good tag team match, but in the end they lose. And Montez, he hits Garza with probably the best frog splash I've ever seen. You know, he kind of does like a 180 turn in midair, and he's done that before, but this one was just really extra good. So one of the best that I've ever seen him. Every time he hits that frog splash, I'm amazed, but this one especially was really awesome. So anyway, they win. They celebrate backstage. Garza and Andrade are still arguing, and Zelina's getting in their face and shit. So they're still having issues. I think that might have been when did Randy Orton approach them? I forgot. They would be seen in the main event. Can't remember how that all happened. But anyway, good tag team match at least. I don't know. I mean, it wasn't for the titles, but it was still good, and that's all I care about. Next up, we finally got, I was wondering where they were going to place this segment, if it was going to open the show. I thought it was going to open the show. But a lot of us have been wondering what the hell's going on with Sasha Banks. She's running around out there with the Raw Women's title after the BS finish last night with Bayley putting on the referee shirt and all of that. And I was adamant in my predictions, and even last night during the reaction, I'm like, Sasha is not winning this title. We're just, the two women power trip is a nice thought, and I think it would make a really cool visual, but I don't think it's necessary, especially when you got, you know, beasts like Asuka and Shayna Baszler on the Raw brand that can come together and have their own title match at SummerSlam. Putting all the belts with them, although it might look cool, it's fucking up other shit. You know, it's just, there's enough story with Bayley and Sasha that 4 belts isn't necessary. They can just go for the SmackDown title. That's all you need. You don't need any more. So I did not think it was going to happen. So after the finish last night, Sasha's got the belt and she's parading around and she thinks she's the Raw Women's Champion. And it got me thinking, I'm like, you know what? That was WWE's way, I think. Although there was some backstage news about that match as well. Apparently, according to Meltzer, Vince changed his mind at the last minute about the finish of the match between those two. I don't know why or what the hell his problem is, but it was supposed to be Asuka going over, and then he changed, and they come up with this idea instead that would set up another match for Monday Night Raw to give them a meaningful match to put on Raw to probably help combat these ratings. So when they did the finish last night, I'm like, oh my God, you got to be kidding me. But it makes a lot of sense because now it's like their way of giving us that 2-women power trip without giving it to us. They can just give it to us for one night because you knew tonight on Raw, Sasha would be out there with her belt, Bayley would be out there with hers, and they'd be in the ring, and we would get that visual of what it looks like to see them with all the titles, but it's not going to be official. And that's pretty much what happened. They came out, they got all their belts, they're celebrating, Sasha's talking her shit, and she's the best, and they're the best, and blah, blah, blah. Asuka comes out and is like, fuck that. I'm still the champ. WWE.com still recognizes her as the Raw Women's Champion. Kairi Sane is with her, and they're in the aisleway there. And that's when we get Stephanie McMahon coming up on the screen. We've been wondering when Stephanie was going to appear because without an authority figure on Raw, you know, it does hurt a little bit in terms of like how these matches are put together because sometimes they're put together in such a silly way. If there was an authority figure on the show, it would be really hard to justify Ziggler getting not 1 but now 2 title matches. So sometimes you really need somebody there to like a Regal or a Stephanie or Triple H or something to come out and say, all right, here's what we're going to do. So even though I'm not a big Stephanie fan, this was so much better than having to hear that awful music and having her walk her ass to the ring. Having her on the screen was so much easy to digest, and she tells everybody, shut the hell up, here's what we're going to do. Sasha, you didn't win that match. Bayley putting on a referee shirt doesn't mean shit. You're not the champion. But then again, Asuka, you're not the champion either, so here's what we're going to do. Next week, it's going to be one-on-one, Sasha versus Asuka. The winner will be the rightful Raw Women's Champion. So it sounds like they've temporarily held up the belt for 1 week. I mean, we'll have to look. Is Asuka still technically or officially the champion, or is there no title holder now and it's vacant, and next week it will be filled? And I'm curious if, like, Asuka wins, does this now count as another world title win for her? You know, so we'll have to see how WWE handles the record keeping here. But Stephanie has made that match, and winner can be achieved by anything. As long as you win the match, you win the title. So it's just a regular match. So if it's a DQ or a count out, you win the belt. So that could be a good way to protect both. Depending on who you put the belt on next week, you could do it in a DQ or do it in a count out, keep Asuka strong, or keep Sasha strong so she can go and challenge Bayley at SummerSlam. That's what I think. That's what I want to see happen. I don't want to see Sasha win the title next week because I almost feel like they've sort of telegraphed it here. Because if Sasha was going to win the title, wouldn't she have just won it last night? And then they would do a rematch next week on Raw? That's all they would do, right? So this almost guarantees, I don't want to say guarantee, but it's highly likely that Asuka will be winning next week because otherwise they wouldn't do it. They wouldn't go through this extra step. They would just have the change and a rematch type of thing. So now I guess technically the title is vacant, and we'll see. I think maybe next week maybe Bayley fucks something up. A DQ would be great, because Bayley was involved. They were involved in each other's matches last night. So if Bayley does something and the referee sees it and he DQs Sasha, Sasha's pissed, and there you go, kind of thing. So they got some ways out of this now that you can do DQ and all that bullshit. So that might actually be technically good. But I'm still sticking with my original horror show at Extreme Rules prediction. And next week, I'm predicting Asuka to walk out of Raw as the champion. To me, that just makes the most sense. Don't combine your world titles when you've got enough good talent in your women's division to have 2 blockbuster women's matches at SummerSlam. You don't flush that down the toilet. You don't not do that. You have to. So Asuka is winning next week. I'll bet my middle nut on it, as I like to say. What did we have next? What's up, Ungovernable? Good to see you. What do we have next on Raw? Oh, yeah, Kairi Sane taking on Bayley. I forgot. That was the match that was advertised. It was going to be Kairi and Bayley. It's a non-title match, and there's been a lot of talk about Kairi Sane. She's been leaving, then she's re-signed, then she's leaving again. Reports were coming out today that today is actually the final day of her contract, July 20th, 2020, and that she will indeed be heading back to Japan, and she's going to be wrapping up business with WWE, and now she's got a match with the champ. So when the bell rang, I literally went into my notes and I wrote, Bayley defeats Kairi Sane. And Kairi beat her. Oh, how that warms my heart. That's so fucking awesome. Now, I'm not completely sold that she's gone because we've heard she's been gone from a lot of credible wrestling people like 3 or 4 times. So I ain't going to believe she's gone until she takes a selfie in Japan. But until then, I don't know. She could still, they didn't really say anything on TV like she was leaving WWE unless WWE makes a statement online on social media or on their website that Kairi Sane's contract is officially up and we wish her the best in her future endeavors. But they said nothing about that tonight on Raw. At least I didn't hear the commentators say anything. And Asuka has got that big match with Sasha next week. So I think Kairi might still be there. I think maybe she sticks around and maybe works a couple of more appearances or something like that. How does she just not be there next week? And they just announced on social media. It feels like if they went out of their way to give her a nice, like, hey, there you go, we're going to let you beat the champion on your way out the door. Are we sure she's leaving? Or at least leaving right this very second? And maybe it's going to be a couple of weeks from now, or maybe she signed on to stay through SummerSlam and then she goes? Or is this really it for her and she's not back at all? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see on that, and we'll peek around the internet, or I will, tonight, tomorrow, and see if we can dig up the story on that. But either way, I think it's very cool. It shows that WWE, does appreciate her, because sometimes we were wondering what the hell they were doing with her sometimes, and the fact that they respect her enough, even as she's leaving, to let her beat their champion without any fear of her jumping over to AEW, because I don't think that's what she's doing. She wants to go back to Japan. That's the story. So they don't really have to worry about her turning up here in the States in their direct competition. She can go over there and like the reports we had heard a couple months back that maybe her plan is to wrestle another year and then retire and maybe start a family or whatever. So best of luck to her. I know we've said that 3 or 4 times here on the Raw reviews as it pertains to Kairi Sane, some of the matches she's had. I thought Nia Jax beat her and ran her out of the company. Where's Nia Jax, by the way? Did she get injured again? Where the hell's Nia Jax? I just forgot. Help me. So, yeah, we thought Kairi was gone like several times, and she wasn't gone. So, anywho, we'll see. Like I said, best of luck to her. After that, we had McIntyre come out. Now, they were promoting him as basically going to talk to the WWE Universe about the future of the title and the future of Drew McIntyre and all that stuff. He goes to the ring. He's got the belt. And he goes on to talk about SummerSlam. You just feel so bad for Drew because, goddamn, he had to work the Mania with no audience, and now he's got to do the same damn thing at the second biggest pay-per-view of the year. Sucks so bad. But he's like, that's a big pay-per-view, and I want a quality opponent. That's when Dolph Ziggler comes out. And I'm like, oh, God. I was like, so they're going to kill time here, because I was wondering how Drew was going to cut a promo about his SummerSlam opponent when we know the only real logical opponent for him right now at SummerSlam would be Randy Orton, but Randy Orton still has his match later. So I didn't think we were going to get anything out of Drew in this promo. Even though he was talking about SummerSlam, I didn't think his opponent was going to be announced, because I think it's going to be Randy Orton. So when Ziggler came out, I'm like, oh, okay, they're going to kill some time. We're going to get another match between them. And luckily, this promo wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be when Ziggler came out, because at least Drew had a better attitude. He was like, what the fuck are you doing out there? I beat the shit out of you last night. Why are you coming out here on my time? I'm done with you. I'm not giving you the time of day. If you want another match, the answer is no. I got nothing to prove. I killed you. You cannot beat me. and get the hell out of here kind of thing. Even hit him with a headbutt and knocked him down, just knocked him on his ass. So I kind of like that Drew wasn't taking any of Ziggler's crap. But then Ziggler, you know, continues on the mic, and he's like basically begging, give me anything. You can name the stipulation, the time, the place. I don't care. I just want the match. Give me the match. You can do anything you want, basically. And Drew then changes his mind. He goes, you know, you'd make a good lawyer, or all those years in law school weren't wasted because you changed my mind. You made a compelling argument, and you're on. You get your rematch, and we'll do it. They didn't announce when, and Ziggler even says, he goes, okay, great, thanks. And by the way, like, what's the stipulation? And he's like, well, I'm going to do the same thing you did, and you're not going to find out the stipulation until match time. So I thought maybe this was going to be next week, and they were going to really beef up Raw with a big women's title match and a big WWE title match, but all reports and are indicating that this is going to be in 2 weeks, Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre. So I think they should just do it next week. As a matter of fact, I was kind of hoping that, because to me they only needed to kill 1 week of time here this week. I was hoping that Drew, after Dolph is begging with him, say any match, anytime, any place, you name the stip. If Drew was just like, okay, right this very second, ring the bell, referee, Claymore him, pin him, and be done. That's what I would have done if I was McIntyre, because he certainly does not seem to be scared or intimidated by Ziggler at all, and can make pretty quick work of him anytime he wants. So I think it would have been really cool if Drew did that, and then that could have been the end of the segment, and then you can come back next week and get Orton involved with him somehow. So I'm kind of hoping this match is next week, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be 2 weeks from now, which means it might take us a while to find out exactly what the match is going to be for SummerSlam. I'm not sure the date, but you know, if you burn 2 more weeks without naming your opponent for him, it's not going to leave too much time for the build. So anyway, I don't know, but it looks like Ziggler and Drew are headed for another title match. That'll be in a week or 2, and then after that, Drew's on to SummerSlam, hopefully to take on the Viper. Speaking of the Viper, he was in the main event against the Big Show. This was This challenge was issued last week to show unsanctioned match, and I wasn't looking forward to this at all. I mean, Jesus, man, the Big Show and Randy Orton in 2020 main eventing a show. At least it's Raw. So, and this did not happen at a pay-per-view like we originally thought this was going to be on Extreme Rules. The fact that this was on Raw was at least easier to stomach. Big Show did a promo prior to the match. They were kind of almost like playing up that this could be the end for him. I still think we'll see Big Show again, but you know, Big Show is going to have a final match. I think Randy Orton's a pretty decent opponent just based on their history and how long they've been in the company together and the fact that they're probably friends and shit like that. If Big Show has to go out, you know, let Randy Orton be the one to do it. Now, all sorts of interference here. Angel Garza and Andrade came out, kind of adding more fuel to that fire. We've talked about them maybe forming like a new version of a Legacy. I wouldn't mind seeing that again, you know, because I think the first Legacy could have been better almost, even though it was pretty good. So maybe Randy Orton starts a new one with Andrade or something like that and Garza. But every time he kind of has a brief alliance with somebody, it doesn't last. He was even briefly with the Revival for a short time. So I don't think there's too much, you know, weight to that. But you also had the Viking Raiders coming out and helping the Big Show, which makes me think that based on what we saw here, Big Show might come back next week and we get a 6-man match. Didn't we already get that? Didn't they already get that? Big Show and Vikings against Andrade, Garza, and Orton. Feel like we might get that next week unless Show is really done here. But anyway, get a bunch of interference. They go to commercial. You come back. Randy Orton and Big Show have their brawl. And in the end, after a couple of RKOs, the Big Show had kicked out of, Randy Orton hits him with a final one and pins him. And I didn't even catch the end. Did he really punt him or anything? I don't think he did. I thought for sure this was going to be... He continued the attack, right? Help me. What the hell did Randy Orton do at the end of the match? I don't think he kicked him, but he definitely beat him pretty definitively there. And I couldn't tell if it was really a Big Show being written off TV. I kind of hope that it is. I don't think we really need to see Big Show around. He's been around since WrestleMania. I like the Big Show. We all like the Big Show, but doses of him coming back in here and there is all we really need. And hopefully this will be the end of him, at least on television for a little while. But who knows? We could also see him next week. And Randy Orton, like I said, you know, I'm Team Orton right now because when he did his promo earlier on in the night, hyping this match, what I've noticed a little bit of a difference about Randy Orton this time around and this heel run, you know, different from others that he's had in the past, is that he seems like he's got like a less sadistic or less psychotic type of tone to him. Like before when he was like that, he sounded like a professional wrestler cutting a promo. A lot of people used to complain that Randy Orton was a little bit robotic, that he was a little too monotone. Chris Benoit had that critique as well. And I remember a lot of people used to say that about Randy Orton. Randy Borton, remember, because he would come off that way. He seems different. He seems like he's speaking to us. He's speaking to the camera a little bit more like a regular person, while at the same time being equally as evil and just as dangerous and unpredictable as he ever was in the past. You know, you still never know what he's really going to do and what's really going on in his head, and you can't really trust anything that he says. But his tone and his demeanor has changed slightly for the better, I think. And like I said, I think he's really doing the best work of his career right now. Just overall, he's just fantastic. So I am riding that Randy Orton train right now. I'm loving it. So if he gets the match against Drew McIntyre, is he going to win the title? Are they going to put the belt on him? He's just a couple of belts behind John Cena for the lead, right? So, and I think before Randy Orton retires, he absolutely will be world champion again. I actually think Randy Orton needs to be Universal. He hasn't been Universal Champion yet, has he? He should hop over to SmackDown. Maybe if he falls short to Drew McIntyre, he can go over there and, I don't know, maybe challenge The Fiend for the title. That might be fun too. I don't know. But I like Randy Orton. I really hope he gets the match with McIntyre, because that's a main event that actually is kind of interesting, because you really don't know who would go over, you know, based on what we've seen. With Brock and Drew, you knew it was Drew's time. But now he's been champ for a while. And everything's weird anyway. And WWE really, I feel like, can make any decision at any time just based on just the craziness in the world in general right now, that they could change gears and go in a different direction at a moment's notice. So I definitely would not rule out Randy Orton beating him and winning the title. Even though I want to see Drew continue his run, I think that's definitely something that could happen, where I think the Brock match was a little bit more predictable. So if it turns out to be McIntyre and Orton at SummerSlam, that's going to be fun. And The Fiend and Strowman, I'm hoping we get on the other side. That could be fun too. So maybe they can bounce back from an absolutely ridiculously horrendous show that should have been taking place in October, not July. And they can bounce back and have a decent SummerSlam in the Performance Center. What do y'all think? He did get a punt. Okay, I wasn't watching, because by then, as soon as the 3 count hit, I remember going live. I was getting the stream ready. I kind of had it on. I was watching. I didn't even pay attention. Thank you, Dre, and thank you for everybody else, for filling me in. So that's good. He ate a punt. That means he probably will be gone. Good. Thank you, Victor. That's how much, I mean, I have to come up here and do a Raw review, and I still don't pay attention to the damn show. But I think I got most of the shit in. What did I miss? Did I miss anything? A couple of backstage promos, maybe. I didn't realize how expensive WWE replica belts were. The last night when we were live reacting to the horror show, they were like, hey, 40% off of belts. I'm like, oh, shit. I'm thinking belts are like $300. I'm like, well, shit, 40% off. That'll put it under $200. And I go on there and look, and oh, no, I was way off. So after the discount, they're about $300, but still a little bit more than I want to pay. I was kind of thinking about getting the big gold belt. And another belt that I couldn't find, I don't know if they've ever made them. I thought they did. I couldn't find on WWE Shop. They had every single belt they've ever had, but the one I could not locate was the 1980s or 1990s tag team titles. The WWE, that classic tag team title, not the SmackDown looking one, and and all that from the 2000s and everything, when they had the Raw and SmackDown titles. I'm talking about that old, and the SmackDown titles had close to that old design, but the one they used in the 80s and 90s, I could not find them on WWE Shop. I've seen some on eBay, but they almost look like they're knockoffs. Because there's some pretty cheap replicas on eBay, but they don't look WWE licensed. But in terms of decoration, it might be good to get one of those bootlegs, because I'm not looking for the real thing. I just want to look pretty, So I don't know, but I couldn't find the classic tags, because that might be a belt that I would also want, just to complete the trifecta from the 90s there with the Winged Eagle and the IC. But yeah, some of that stuff, some of that wrestling merch, I don't know if I'll ever buy. It's hard to justify that stuff, Anywho. Yeah, and Orton put another legend down. He's been doing the legend killer thing. That's what's cool about it. He's resurrected that legend killer gimmick, but he's he seems less psychotic, and that almost makes him more dangerous. The fact that he does come off a little bit more normal. He claims he's doing things that he didn't do last time, like, claim to love Edge and claim to love Christian, and he talks about the friendships with Edge, Christian, and Big Show, and all these people that he's killing. He didn't really do that before. He just fucking killed people. Now it's, he seems more like a serial killer now because of how normal he appears. And that's kind of what's cool. And I don't think he deserves like kind of enough credit for it. It's subtle, but it's a difference that I notice between how he was before. Regal's got an announcement. I saw that, so he's going to have an announcement on NXT. I am off this Wednesday. I'll actually watch it. We will not have a review on Wednesday night, unfortunately, but I will be watching, and I'll be tweeting. Regal's announcement could be Tessa. I don't know if they were going to bring in Tessa, I don't know if would they do it that way by advertising Regal making an announcement, because you can bring in Tessa a whole bunch of different ways. I almost think like if you're doing Regal, he's making an announcement about a specific match or something. I don't know. You could be right. I like the way they did it back in the day. There's a couple, was it Bobby Roode and maybe some other people I like prior to them coming in to NXT, they shoot an angle, or not shoot an angle, but they shoot a segment backstage where you see that talent going up to Regal, shaking his hand. Oh, come with me, come in the office or whatever, So I kind of maybe like it that way, but him just coming out and announcing it, I don't know. How about the WCW tag team belts? I liked them. You mean the ones that like Harlem Heat wore and shit, not the ones at the end. They were okay. I still think, and I thought the US belt was okay too, but I think I like the WWE tag belt better. That belt was around the waist of the Bulldogs, the Hearts, Demolition. Gotta love that belt. Yeah, I read the Flair article about, there's some pictures that surfaced of him not having a mask. One was in his car, which is no big deal. I don't really wear a mask in the car either, and a couple of pictures outside of his home. But his wife has tested positive for COVID, and you'd think this guy would have a fucking mask on all the time, given his age and stuff. But it was a pretty interesting read. But there's been a lot of concern about Flair, because, geez, I mean, sometimes I don't think he gives a shit either. And seeing him on TV and stuff, somebody of his age that's already had some pretty serious health problems in recent years, like super, super recent. A couple of years ago, he was on death's door. So he shouldn't be out there on TV, and he just shouldn't be anywhere in any sort of mass gathering at all, regardless of what precautions they're taking. But he's his own person. He can do what he wants and take his own risks, I guess. I just think it's very dangerous and very dumb for not only WWE to ask him to be there, but for him to want to be there. And I think Ric Flair and everybody else that is his age or has health problems should stay the hell indoors. I know it sucks, but it's better than dead. So, I don't know. Yeah. Uncle Elmer's canvas belt, JCPenney, $3.98. That always reminds me of Mr. Miyagi in Karate Kid, after he beats up the skeletons, and then fucking Machio is like, "What kind of belt do you have?" He's like, JCPenney, $3.98. Yeah, Tessa, everybody would debut. That argument can be made with anybody. Anybody that's coming in or making a debut would be better with a crowd, but you can't sit around and wait for the crowd, and that's why I think WWE and AEW aren't doing that. They know it sucks. It would have been so awesome to get that revival pop, like when FTR first hit Dynamite, and even Slammiversary this past weekend with Heath Slater being there, the Good Brothers showing up, EC3, Eric Young. Imagine if you had an Impact audience there, albeit a very small one. It would still be there. It would be awesome. It would be hugely exciting. So everybody would be better in front of a crowd, but you can't just sit around and wait for that. So if you've signed Tessa, you got to use her. Bring her in now. It sucks. It sucks. Oh, your dad ordered the 1999 ECW. I could maybe have an ECW belt. It brings back memories. For me, I'd get that probably for nostalgia purposes only. And yeah, a couple of WCW belts. I want the big gold belt. I had the very first one, the original one, back in 1999 when WCW were the first ones to actually make replica belts. I got the world title, but it was poorly made back then. It was like one of the first. It was like almost a prototype, and even the face plate, the front plate was just straight flat. It wasn't curved or anything, and it looked like shit. I sold it on eBay probably 10 or 15 years ago now for a few bucks and got rid of it. But I want like a new, like better made title that would just look better on display. So yeah, I have interest in getting that big gold belt again. I'll keep an eye out. If I can ever find it for dirt cheap, I'll pick it up. No, but I did see that. I saw something. It was probably on Twitter, Ryan, about R-Truth's game show on the network. That Undertaker thing was on last night, too. I didn't get a chance to check that out. Did any of you? Did you guys see it? How was it? How'd it go? We're pretty much done talking about Monday Night Raw, by the way, so we can talk about other stuff. You guys want to shit on the horror show some more? What else can we talk about from last night that was so ridiculously stupid? We talked about Rey Mysterio and the fishing bobber that he popped out of his eyeball. We talked about the ridiculous finishes that they went with last night, like with MVP. We still don't know who the United States champion is. I don't think we do anyway. They didn't mention anything tonight on Raw, right, when they were doing their promo. I think MVP is claiming he's the United States champion, but is he really? And, and poor Apollo hasn't been on TV for weeks either. We don't know when he'll be back or if he'll reclaim his title or if MVP is actually going to be the champ for a while. I don't know. This company. It's not totally their fault. Shit's a mess right now, but they're not doing any favors for themselves with some of these decisions that they're making. I think we can all agree. I mean, we all wanted this right after we said when this all started, it would be better for them just to shut down because there's so much wrestling. You can never watch it all. There's so much wrestling that you can watch from the past. WWE across all promotions on the network, anywhere you want, you can find it. WWE can air other things on their shows for weeks and it would be fine and consider it an off season and wait for this shit to blow over, even if it takes a year, but from a fan standpoint, it would be so much better because now it's like, even when they go through anything meaningful they do here, and when they look back on these times, in the future, go back and look at specific matches or programs or something from this time, is this going to be a lot of footage that they want to show? This footage from the Performance Center with the plexiglass around the ring. I feel like 2020 is just going to be like a mulligan. We just want to just pretend it never happened. It's a throwaway year and just stricken it from the records almost. I think that even though we never got a full shutdown, I think in the future WWE will treat it as one. And for all of these great matches that we have seen, some of these guys going out there and killing themselves in the ring, in the end, it's probably going to be for nothing because nobody's ever going to want to remember this and want to relive this time, especially if things do get back to normal. If 2 years from now, everything's back the way it was and we're not even wearing masks anymore, I think that's a big if. But if it gets to that, are we going to want to remember this year? We're going to want to do everything we can to forget this year. And I just don't think it's going to be a time where you're going to really want to go back and rewatch WrestleMania 36. Mark my words, unless WWE makes me on a Monday Night Raw, I will never watch WrestleMania 36 again in my entire life. Maybe I'll watch the Funhouse match. Okay, maybe. But I will not watch the show ever again. It'll be the only, because I just don't want to remember it. It just sucked. It was such a disappointment. And it was really the beginning of all this. And now it's been months later and it ain't getting better. It's getting worse. And we're not any closer to having things back to normal. So I'm thinking 2 years is probably what we're looking at here to start getting some sort of idea of normalcy around here. Chris Miner, I appreciate it. Oh, I'm so glad you did this because this is a question I always ask you guys all the time. And thank you for the $5. My ranking of cinematic matches. Number 1, Boneyard match. Number 2, Stadium Stampede. Number 3, Firefly Funhouse. Number 4, Gargano and Ciampa. 5, Cold Dream. 6, Money in the Bank. 7, Swamp Match. Damn. I think I agree with that completely. I don't think I'd switch anything. That's literally the exact order I would have them in. Unless I put something ahead of the No, I think Stadium Stampede might be 2. If I changed anything, I'd swap Funhouse and Stadium Stampede. I'd maybe go Boneyard, Funhouse, Stampede, but that's it. I can live with Stampede being number 2. I totally agree with that with that ranking system. Totally agree. Joey G, good to see you, man. Thanks for the $2 for me. 2020 ended after the Royal Rumble. Yeah, for me too. And that was, man, we should have known, man. We had a bad omen that day, man, with Kobe and everything. Oh, God. Little did we know it would only get much, much, much worse. Man, I got gigantic fucking zits. My lip is swollen. Where? Right here. It was swollen. Oh, no, I'm sorry. The top lip. It was swollen this morning when I woke up. It was sticking out. I got some zits from wearing a mask all the time and shit. It sucks. Out in the hot, humid heat. breathing in your own moisture and in your own dirt and grime, it's going to cause zits, and it did. But luckily, I got Stridex, and that can cure anything. How Wheezy? Good to see you, man. Thanks for the $5, and thanks for being here. Can't stand wrestling fans sometimes. Bunch of know-it-alls. That's all they are, man. People half my age trying to tell me what's what. That's my favorite when that happens. Yep, that's we dealt with a little bit of that tonight because that's just funny, because I've always mentioned that, the fans, their anger just overtakes them. When Aleister Black lost that match, I wasn't any happier about it than anyone. But this idea that he's a jobber and he's buried, that's fucking ridiculous. Like, think, goddammit. Think, McFly, think. Stone Cold, appreciate the $2. I always like the Undisputed Belt. Underrated? Yeah, everybody. We had this whole conversation a couple of podcasts ago, and I am in the minority. A lot of the newer generation fans, or maybe the fan generation one under me, one generation below me, really likes the Undisputed Era belt. I hated it. I hated that belt. I thought it was ugly as shit. I didn't even really like the one before, the blue one. But I think I like the blue one more than that. I did not like that title at all, and I was happy when it went away. But when I mentioned that, just the comments were going crazy that night. It was like, everybody's like, I like that belt. I like that belt. I like that belt. So I understand I'm the moron here. I get it totally. But I'm standing by it. I never liked it. And, I never thought, I think my biggest issue is I never really thought it needed to be changed to begin with. And just like it didn't in 1998 after WrestleMania 14 when Vince gave Austin the new belt, I'm like, what was wrong with that one? That one was awesome. So I just wasn't a fan. That's because I'm old school and nostalgic, and I'll never change. Jordan Purvis, what's up, man? I DM'd you a meme on Twitter you might like. Oh, God. Thank you for the $5, dude. I might like or I might hate. Is it going to scare me? Let's see. Well, I got a few. Oh, hey, Deb, you got some messages from you in here, too. Shit, I got to answer a civic question. I didn't even see that, buddy. Devlin, are you here? I'll get back to you on that. I didn't even see that message until just now. Oh, yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, that's a good point. When people who don't wear the mask, you saw that meme online or the image on social media this week. If Kane could go 53 minutes and 46 seconds and eliminate 11 men in the 2001 Royal Rumble, all while wearing a mask, your bitch ass can wear one to the store. And that's very true because that thing covered Kane's whole face. I had a Kane mask once, like a toy one. I put it on. It's like one of those crazy Halloween masks, when you're a kid with the rubber band on it and it gets so wet inside. Like for Kane to have to breathe through that thick leather mask must have been torture. And to be in the ring for an hour and wrestle, you can't go in and buy your fucking tampons with a mask on. Come on. Just try. How hard is it? But very true. Oh, Devlin's lurking. Yeah, I just saw your DM about the Civic. I got the did you get the LX or which one did I get? The EX. Yeah, EX. Yeah, the LX I think was the lower model. I got the EX, the one in between. I think it's like Sport and LX, and then it's EX, and then it's one more, and then it's Touring or something. So mine's kind of in the middle. But it's got the moonroof and the engine and all that cool shit. Yep. That's what it is. WWE fan, thanks again for $5 more. I appreciate it. How do you feel about Taz bringing back the FTW title? I talked about it in the Winged Eagle the week that it happened. I liked it just because it was cool to see that title come back. I would have done it differently if I was AEW. I think bringing it back the week before the title match was stupid because that kind of let the cat out of the bag that you weren't going to have Brian Cage win the title in the first place. So that didn't really surprise me. I thought it was a way to kind of keep Cage relevant, give him something to do, give him a belt to carry around after he doesn't beat Moxley. Because if he does beat Moxley, why are you going to have another belt on his shoulder to upstage your world title? It's just stupid. So they made a mistake there, and I would have debuted it after the fact or something, maybe last week. Or no, the match was last week. I debut it this week on TV instead of the way they did it because I thought it telegraphed the title match in the main event for Fight for the Fallen. But I didn't really think Cage was going to win the belt anyway, FTR title or not, or FTW title or not. I didn't think he was beating Moxley. But it's kind of cool to see that match, that belt come back. Taz claims it's the original title. It looks the same to me. And he created that title because he was screwed out of the ECW title. That's how it came into existence in the first place. So I was kind of hoping how I would have done it is I would have had Moxley win, but do the match in a way to where Cage can claim he was screwed, even though if he really wasn't, he can just make a complaint about it or whatever, and that's when they can create the title. I would have done it that way, but whatever. AEW's entitled to some growing pains here or there. They can't all be genius bookers like GoodMicWork. Come on now. Divine Ricks, thank you very much for the $10. I appreciate it. Hey, Greg, if you can pick one superstar from the past and put them against a superstar from today, what matchup would it be? For me, it would be Bret Hart versus Seth Rollins. Bret and Rollins would be good. I'm trying to think. Bret right off the bat, I'd want to put in there with somebody. A Bret Rollins match would be good, but I almost think like Owen and Rollins would be better based on their styles. Bret might be fun with, God, who's in the company now? Who's in the fucking WWE? I can't even think. Let me look at tonight's Raw results. Who was on Raw tonight that might be make a good match for Bret? Nobody, really, to be honest. I think Bret and Sasha Banks would be a good match. Bret and Randy Orton would be fun. I'd have to think. If it's only one, like the one match, I mean, I know what I would have picked in the Attitude Era. I would have picked Bret Hart, Kurt Angle. I would have picked Rock, Shawn Michaels. But now I'd probably say I might have to go with an NXT person. I don't know. Bret Hart and Adam Cole would probably be a lot like Bret and 1, 2, 3 Kid. I don't know. I got to give that some thought. What do you got? What say y'all? You give me some match. Oh, Bret versus Zayn. Bret versus AJ. Shawn versus AJ would be good. I think Bret and Randy Orton would be exceptional. Bret and Thatcher would be good. Thatcher would also be good against. Oh man, who was a badass back then in the 90s with Bret? What am I trying to think of? Thatcher and Savage would be good. Bret versus Andrade. Bret versus Daniel Bryan would be good. King Kong Bundy versus Marco Stunt. I love it. Oh my God. Stunt would kill Bundy. God. He'd Canadian destroyer him right off the fucking roof of Daly's place. Through a table. And then pin him with a 5 count. Austin versus Cena. That would be an interesting one. Yeah, could you imagine the crowd in that one? My God. And Cena would no longer be the most polarizing superstar in WWE history. He'd be the most hated superstar in WWE history. That would be a mismatch for the ages. You found the WWF tag belts for $150 on eBay. Tag belts, plural? Or just one belt? I did see some $150 replicas on eBay, but I don't think those are official WWE licensed belts, which, as long as they look cool, I really don't mind. Like, there's a few, like, the ones I have, I want to be, like, authentic and shit, but in terms of, like, decorating a man cave or an office or something, I don't, as long as it looks okay and it's made solid and has good quality, I really don't care. But if they're bootlegs, I don't want to give any money to a bootlegger. You know what I mean? They got to be selling it legit. WWE fan 22, thank you, man, for the $2. Why did Rock versus HBK never happen? They just didn't cross. They weren't there at the right time. You know, Shawn left right when Rock started getting over. They had a short ass window there, but there's the story. There is the story that apparently Rock has said he didn't want to work with Shawn. Like, there was a little bit of legitimate heat there because of Shawn and Marty showing their ass in Hawaii. You know, when they were working for the Rock's family or something like that, and he thought they were disrespectful and never liked Shawn again. And they had interacted on TV. They had that great match on the first, not the match, but that match on the first SmackDown where Shawn super kicked the Rock and helped Triple H win the title and all that stuff. So they had some chances there, but man, that would have been good, especially like in their prime. Like, if Shawn, if you can somehow get 98 Shawn, well, 97 Shawn, get 97 or 96 Shawn in the ring with 2000 Rock, maybe 2001 Rock. Holy crap, that would have been good. So it you know, probably the backside. I mean, even though there was the animosity there, had Shawn not gotten hurt, it would have been hard to not do it. Eventually, Vince would have gotten them together and be like, look, whatever the problem is here, let's make it not a problem anymore because I need you guys to go in the ring and make me some money. I think that match would have happened. Vince would have gotten it to happen, and Vince would have made it happen. You can't just say, I don't want to work with him. Oh, yes, you are. You work for me, bitch. Get in the ring with Shawn, go out there and have a 5-star classic. So I think if Vince wanted it bad enough, he could have made it happen, but Shawn's injury, you know, didn't give them the window. You know, it was just a short amount of time. 2002, briefly there. Shawn came back pretty much as The Rock was leaving. He was out the door. Shawn's return was the same night of him dropping the belt to Brock. And then after that, he was back against Austin and Goldberg. And then another match the following year at WrestleMania. That would have been where to do it. WrestleMania 20. Shawn Michaels versus The Rock. And you could have just done Benoit and Triple H on their own. That's what I would have done. I would have done Benoit, Triple H for the title. Rock versus Shawn in that like big attraction match between two legends type of thing. Foley and Orton, the match that they would do at Backlash the next month with the thumbtacks and the whole deal. Do that instead. And then have Flair and Batista win the tag belts or something on the show. I would have reworked the whole damn thing. Get rid of Goldberg and Brock. Do something else with them. That might be a fun video one night or a fun live stream. Just rebook WrestleMania 20. Or rebook anything. Oh, crap. I got some more super dupers running in. Thank you, Adam Ostberg. Appreciate the $5, dude. I've been a fan of yours since the very beginning. Holy crap. Man, how much would you pay to see Jim Cornette versus Vince Russo in a ring? I would definitely pay money to see it, but I'd rather see him in something else. I'd rather see like Jim Cornette and Vince Russo like in a bouncy castle with weapons or something. That would be fucking fun. Because in a ring, they just like look like two idiots rolling around in there. So if they're going to look like idiots, you might want to put them in an idiotic type of environment. So I'd put them in a bouncy castle. I'd put them in a Chuck E. Cheese. I'd put them in a playground at McDonald's, pet store, somewhere like that, and just let them have at it. That would be fun shit. And videotape it. Maybe do a grocery store brawl like a Booker T in Austin. I'd be into that. But thanks for being around for 10 years, Adam. Appreciate it. Justin, thank you for the $5 as well. Here's one you might like or not. What if Shawn and Brett switch places? Like being a prick, the concussion, and the second run. Shawn going to WCW in 1997. Well, if they switched and Brett was the one that was a prick, that would make Brett a bully, because Brett was also tough. And in a fight, he'd beat the shit out of Shawn Michaels if they ever got in a real fight, which they did. So if Brett is also the prick on top of it, and he had Shawn's attitude, I don't think I would be a big Brett fan. He would be really hard to like. Because at least with Shawn, he can be a prick, but if he's a prick to the wrong person, they're going to whip his ass. Where Brett, could probably hold his own against most. But if it was Shawn going to WCW, that would have hurt, because Brett, when he got there, he was horribly misused, and I have no doubt they would have horribly misused Shawn, but maybe not as bad because Nash was there. Hall was there. He had friends, powerful, powerful, powerful friends. And Shawn knows how to politic. And so does Brett, but, Shawn, when he's got that backup with him, he would not have been put in U.S. title matches against Booker T on the undercard of pay-per-views 1 month after coming in when he's really the hottest wrestler in the world. They would not have made that same mistake with Shawn, because I don't think he would have let it happen, or Nash and Hall would have let it happen either. So even Hogan might not have been strong enough to hold Shawn down, kind of thing. So I think Shawn would have done better in WCW than Brett did. And if Brett would have stayed in WWE, then he wouldn't have gotten that concussion in WCW. Maybe he could have wrestled until 2001. We could have got a couple of Bret Hart and Kurt Angle matches by that point, before he was really ready to hang it up. And it would have been interesting, but I don't know. I worry about Shawn. He might have been all right, because he still would have met Rebecca. It would have been easier for him to meet her, because he would have been there instead of having Kevin Nash be his wingman and set the two of them up. He would have had easier access to her. They still would have gotten together. They still would have gotten married. And many people credit Rebecca for getting Shawn's shit together. Like, she's the one that's like, dude, you're about to lose me. And he cleaned himself up pretty much for her and his family and all that stuff. So he might have been all right. I would think if Shawn went to WCW, he'd wind up dead, but he probably would have gotten with Rebecca and hopefully not cheated on her with any other Nitro girls and stuck with her. And they could have had a good, solid marriage, and she could have helped him, get it together. And then he could have returned to WWE in glorious form in 2002 after the buyout, or maybe even prior to that, be involved in the invasion. Shawn Michaels involved in the invasion on the other side in WCW. Imagine that. We were this close to that happening. We were. After Shawn and Brett's hair pulling fight in 97, Shawn left. And that was in Providence. That was in the Northeast, and Nitro was in Boston that same night. Shawn could have just hopped in his Crown Vic, 2 hours up the road. There he is on Nitro. If that would have happened, man, it would have been a very different looking business, man. It's fun to think about stuff like that and to think about like other scenarios of what could have been had this not happened. And sometimes it's the smallest things, sometimes it's the smallest, tiniest of things. If it would have gone differently, so much would have been different. If Shawn wouldn't have taken that back bump in the, in the casket match with The Undertaker, had Bret Hart and Vince been able to work something out, think of the chain of events that would have put into place had Bret not been screwed, had Bret not left. We'd still have Owen Hart with us today. Martha and Oge and Athena would have grown up with a full family had none of that happened. So sometimes it's fun to talk about it. Sometimes it's depressing, but sometimes the littlest things, I was like that butterfly effect stuff, the littlest, tiniest moment in wrestling can set a chain of events into motion that without it, we wouldn't even be looking at the same business. How crazy is that? And there's a lot of those examples. Tons of them. We could talk for hours about that shit. Devlin, good to see you, man. Thanks again for $5 more. Which theme is worse, Stephanie McMahon or Brie Bella's? That is tough. Stephanie is worse, but not by much. Not by much, but yeah, nothing is worse than Stephanie's. I've always just really had a deep, deep, deep internal hatred, psychotic hatred for her songs. I don't really hate anything except her theme songs. Man. K-Dog's Kennel, thank you, dude, for $2 more. Will John Cena come back and win world title number 17? Absolutely. He will. Might not be for a couple years now, but he ain't retiring. And WWE isn't going to let him retire without having his name in the record books as a Universal Champion. That will happen. Unless WWE folds the title or unifies it and they don't care about the legacy of the Universal title. But to me, it's a title that's going to be here to stay. And so they want as many big names on it as possible. Right now, they already got Goldberg and Brock and guys like that. Add Cena. I fully expect that'll happen. How easy? Thank you for $2 more. I don't think so. I don't think there's any problems with Shawn and Rock today. I wouldn't think, especially something that long ago. I don't care what, well, I guess there's some things you can't get over, but something like that, Shawn being a young, immature, ignorant prick, he owns up to that kind of thing. And I'm sure him and Rock have had plenty of discussions. They've crossed paths and talked backstage. There's been plenty of photos of them talking and shit like that. So I think any beef between them has long been squashed. But maybe at the time in like 99 or 2000 there, or, whenever you had that short window that maybe they could have gotten in the ring together, I think maybe that's where some of their heat, was at the time. And I don't think it exists now. It shouldn't exist. Deshaun Robinson, thank you for the $3, dude. I appreciate it. Pete Dunne versus Benoit or Gargano and Eddie Guerrero. Man, there was a clip on Twitter yesterday, and I remember this match. It was on Raw. It was The Rock and Eddie Guerrero. It was in 2002, and I forget the date on it. It was probably an anniversary, probably right around this time. And there is one of the sweetest, just beautiful rock bottom counters that I have ever seen. Rock gets Eddie in the rock bottom, goes up for it. He is 3/4 of the way down to the ground. And Eddie at the very last nanosecond just fucking reverses it and flips Rock right over. It was great. Just fucking amazing how good they worked. So Eddie and Gargano would be fun. Depends on what mood I'm in. Those are two very different style of matches. Pete Dunne and Benoit are going to beat the shit out of each other. And Eddie and Gargano are going to fly around just like smooth wrestlers that they are. So I don't know. If I'm angry, if I'm mad that day in a bad mood, and I want to see two guys beat the shit out of each other, I'm going with Dunne and Benoit. I guess I'm probably going to pick Gargano and Eddie. That match would just be too stupidly good. It'd be really fun if Chyna could be in Eddie's corner and Candice could be in Gargano's corner. That would be good stuff. I'd be into that. Tom Croso. Thank you very much for the $3. I appreciate it. Does The Rock fight at Mania next year? I would say yes. I actually thought that was going to happen this year, but with COVID, I don't know. Now I don't even think we're going to get a WrestleMania here in LA, but let's pretend that COVID never happened in January and we've been living a normal wrestling life all the way up until now. I think you build to Rock and Roman. And as a big feature match there, Rock versus Roman Reigns, Rock will put over his cousin or whatever. That'll probably be like his final wrestling match. And then next year, he goes into the Hall of Fame. And I think this year, Undertaker would have gone into the Hall of Fame. But I'm worried any of that's even going to come close to happening. There might not be a WrestleMania. There just might not be. There probably won't be, which sucks. But yeah, is there no COVID? I kind of was hoping, because our window's closed and Rock's late 40s now. He's still a beast. He's still a fucking moose and in great shape. But, if he's going to realistically have a good match or any match that can hold up and not completely, totally suck, he needs to do it and do it soon. But that could be all, out the window now. DM23, appreciate the $2. Do you think we will ever get Brock versus Rock again? No, I don't think so. Unless the two of them have some desire to do it. I don't think you really need it. I think the time to do that was in whatever year they were rumored. I think it was 2014. Was it the year with The Rock? Or was it the year with Undertaker's streak? I think maybe that year it was rumored to maybe happen. That would have been good. Trying to think if there was another year. I think 2014 was the year that maybe it was rumored, then it didn't happen, and it turned out to be Taker and Brock instead. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think you do it now. I think it's too late. And there's no reason to, really, at this point. Oh, sorry, Stone Cold, I missed you. Let me go find you. Where are you? You must be way up here. Oh, there you are. Oh, wow. Thanks, dude. $2 more. I didn't even see that one. Thoughts on the old red light heavyweight title? You mean the one from the Attitude Era? Like the Taka Michinoku belt? That one? Or the one from back in the day that they had briefly that was defended in Japan a lot? With like Tiger Mask and shit. I think you mean the more recent one. I didn't like it at the time because I thought WWE was trying to compete with WCW's cruiserweight division, and they were failing miserably. It's a lot like, that's a good comparison actually now that I think about it. I think WWE's light heavyweight division compared to WCW's cruiserweight division was like comparing AEW's women's division to WWE's women's division. It's like AEW's got a couple of good ones, just like WWE had a couple of good light heavyweights. But overall, anywhere near as good as the division is on the other side. So WWE arrived late to that party. WCW had already signed all the big Mexican stars. You had your Juventudes, you had your Rey Mysterios, and then you had guys like Jericho, Malenko, Psychosis, and all the other guys. You had the Villanos and Super Colo and El Dandy, and Jesus, who else did they have? I said Psychosis. They had everybody. They had just so many international stars there, all there wrestling hard and wrestling well. There was nobody left. And then WWE tried to tried to do that little working relationship with AAA. But even they didn't have, they had very few like really athletic lucha stars there, just a few. Other than that, it was Piroth and guys like that. And they didn't bring anything new to the table and didn't give you any fresh action where WCW was just killing it with their light heavyweight division. So, yeah, I think their title sucked. And after Taka, who won it? Brian Christopher maybe won it, or he had matches. I don't remember how many people held that belt until it kind of just faded. What was the history on that? What's the history on that title? I don't remember. Yeah, WWE had the better hardcore division. They did have a good hardcore division, especially at first. I remember that great match. It was in your house, and it was like Bob Holly and Al Snow, and they wound up like in the river or something. Like, that was good. I remember there was a Christmas episode, or maybe not a Christmas episode. It was a Raw. There was a lot of snow, and they were outside, and it was like, I think it was Al Snow and Road Dogg had a really good hardcore match. Some of those matches were good at first, and then it got stupid. El Dandy, Brett's favorite wrestler. Probably the only one of the funnier promos and better promos Brett ever cut in WCW when he was trying to explain to Mean Gene why El Dandy deserved a title shot. And he was right. El Dandy did deserve a title shot. Malenko. Oh, yeah, Malenko had it. Well, yeah, by then the Radicals and shit were there. Then it had... Yeah, I guess I'm thinking pre-Radicals then. I'm thinking just that 2-year span. So I guess it was around for a while because by then they started having some better guys. Didn't I think X-Pac maybe held it as well, right? Sean Waltman, when he came back with like X Factor and shit. So by then you had some decent light heavyweights in there. But when during the time period that they were trying to compete with the cruiserweight, it was weak, man. Even the great Sasuke had the one match at Canadian Stampede, and it looked like he was going to be their guy. He beat Taka at that In Your House, and then it turned out to be Taka to be the one that they signed. Good old Taka Michinoku. Taka lost it to Christian. Yeah, when Christian was in the Brood in the white shirt and that shit. That's right. Thank you, guys. I remember it now. Oh, yeah, and Gilbert won it. My Uncle Gilbert. Man. Me and my dad, Stone Cold, are so embarrassed. Stone Cold is so embarrassed of his brother. He's like our alcoholic uncle. We invite him over for like Christmases and Thanksgiving. He always shows his ass and embarrasses himself. And he's always bringing sparklers with him. I don't know why. Weird Uncle Dwayne. He's a weird one. DM23, appreciate the $2 more. I really wanted to see Rollins with an eye patch. I did too, because I think that would be cool if Rollins and Mox were both sporting them in the same year. Props to Moxley too, man. When I was on the Jericho cruise, that fool wore that eye patch the whole time. It was like him and MJF were having a who can break kayfabe contest or something. He was even doing karaoke and headbanging up in the fucking club upstairs with that eye patch on all night. He was great. He had a blast. Yeah, I remember when X-Pac won it. Who remembers the horrible theme music? What was his little group's name? Who the fuck was even in it? Oh, it was Just Incredible and Albert, right? What the hell? X Factor, right? Or is that the name of his finisher? I think it's also the name of the stable. And they had that horrible song sung by that horrible guy. Remember? I remember. Yeah, when did they just do away with the belt? Like, was there an official time, or did it just stop appearing on TV? I don't even remember. Usually I remember all this stuff in the Attitude Era. I remember this time period pretty sharply, and I somehow can't remember the history of the light heavyweight title and when it ceased to be a thing. X Factor, yeah. X Factor. God, they were awful. Because, I mean, after DX and stuff, they weren't cool. Like, they weren't cool at all. I mean, X-Pac was kind of cool, but Justin's always been okay, and Matt Bloom, come on. X-Factor. Am I ready for Padres baseball? I guess. Oh, yeah, Survivor. That's when it was? After Survivor Series? Must have just stopped then. I don't remember a light heavyweight match. I was there, man. I did a review on that back in November if you want to see that, because I was right in front of the hard cam the whole pay-per-view, and you can see me the whole time. So if you want to check out my Survivor Series review, search it on the YouTube channel and watch it. You'll like it. Oh, it was supposed to be unified, but X-Pac was injured. No shit. Okay. Oh, yeah, because then the Cruiserweight would have been in by then, right? Did they bring in the Cruiserweight title? Oh, yeah. That would have been fun to do. Yeah, and then they renamed it, and they kept the name, because Cruiserweight title sounds cooler than light heavyweight. That's right. I'm starting to remember now. It's all coming back to me. You guys do me a favor and smash that thumbs up button since we got a decent audience in here. Try to get those likes up so I can try to get out of my jabroni slump that the YouTube channel seems to be in. The last few weeks or so has been shit. But we're looking good tonight, finally. It's nice to be back to normal, sort of. Not quite there yet, but we're getting there. Yeah, I completely forgot how that stuff worked with the light heavyweight title. Crazy. Tajiri, yeah. See, by then, too, by the time they did the invasion, though, by 2001, then they had enough guys there. Like, they had some good light heavyweights that had previously already been in WCW and stuff. So, it would have been cool to see the unification happen, I guess, at a different time. Maybe with, like, Taka and Rey Mysterio. That would have been great. Oh, my God. Give me that match. I still think Mysterio's better, would have beat him, but the match would have been fucking good. Man, 1998, Rey Mysterio versus Taka Michinoku. Sign me up. Kidman, that's another one. Oh, really, Ryan? You guys watching Raw Talk? What, he got Shane at a crack? That's great. It's no knock on her, man. How can you possibly talk to R-Truth and not fucking smile? No, DM, I do not. I do not dislike the heavyweight title more than the spinner belt. The only thing in the world that I hate worse than the spinner belt is cottage cheese and Stephanie McMahon's theme song. That's it. It's the top 3. Actually, there's another one I have to add. The orange dude with the hair. Yeah, he's on there too. But yeah, that spinner belt was bad, but nothing's as bad as Stephanie's theme music. Nothing at all. Yeah, right, man. We never got a Taka and Ray match. Just imagine that. Just imagine the moves. I think if that match would have happened, I would have preferred it to be in a WCW ring. Because that was another thing about the Cruiserweight division in WCW. WCW had a different ring. It seemed like it was either mic'd differently or, you know, when the wrestlers took bumps on it, you heard it. And it always had this like stiffer look to it, even though WWE rings have been claimed by many workers to be some of the hardest the business has ever had. It didn't seem like it on TV, where WCW, you know, when there would be like a top rope bump or something, you would hear it. It would resonate like through the fucking speakers in your TV. And you combine that with like the cable ropes that they had instead of the real ropes that WWE uses. I felt like there was more spring. There was more things you could do. You could like bounce off the middle of the road. You see a lot of that now, you know, springboards and stuff, but I think you were seeing less of that in WWE at that time and more in WCW. And the Cruiserweight matches were more fun in a WCW ring, I thought, where main event matches were more fun in a WWE ring. So if we got Taka, if Taka could go to Nitro, oh my God, and you could have him taking on Ray and Bobby Heenan calling it. Oh, man, because Bobby Heenan was fun when he called those Cruiserweight matches. He didn't know what many of the moves were, but just the way he would, like, react. Not in a stupid way like Lawler. Heenan wouldn't say ramen noodle moonsault or whatever. He would just, like, scream or let out these, like, ow, or oh, my God, or he ain't going anyplace, or whatever, you know, his normal phrases would be. He would just do a great job of selling it, of selling how crazy it was. Like, I can't believe what I'm fucking seeing in there. So, Bobby Heenan, to me, was a really entertaining part of the Cruiserweight matches because he had Mike Tenay out there to balance it. He could call the moves. He knew the history of the guys. And then you could have Heenan just acting like the regular dude with eyes popping out of his head because he's so in awe of what he's watching. It helped make those Cruiserweight matches even more special. And I'm pretty sure Bobby did he call the Ray and Eddie match at Halloween Havoc that year? That was 96. I think he did. And again, it was like he contributed a lot to that. Pretty sure he was the announcer or one of the play-by-play guys in that. Ooh, I like it, Deshaun. Thank you for the $2. Darby Allin versus Jeff Hardy, 2002 hardcore title match, ladder match. I'd like to see a ladder match between the two. Yeah, Jeff Hardy and Darby Allin. It's a shame his contract, if he stays with WWE or whatever, if he went to AEW, Darby is like the first guy I'd want to see him work with. Because I feel like Darby's got a lot of like outside interest and stuff, and he might not be completely committed to the wrestling game. But in terms of like a torch passing type of deal, you know, to where you can find another guy similar to you to do what you do and say, here, this is yours now kind of thing. I think Hardy passing that on to Darby would be a good replacement. Darby's awesome. The Right to Censor theme was garbage, and I can attest to how annoying it was because I heard the Right to Censor theme many, many times in person, and it is ear-piercing. My God. You just bleed right out your ears listening to that. I mean, it was so loud with WWE's loud-ass speakers and those pay-per-views and TVs and stuff, and I went to so many Raws during that year in 2000. And by the way, shout out to whoever mentioned it last night. I will be doing a 20-year anniversary review of SummerSlam 2000 next month because I was at that show. So that's on my list now coming up to you. That's going to be fun because I was there and I had really good seats and I have a lot of memories. That was a fun time. And I remember Right to Censor wrestled on that show a couple of times, and sometimes because it was a faction, you heard it more than once in the night. You'd hear it 3, 4, 5 times, especially if they enter the ring, then they win, and then somebody else wrestles later on. It's like, Jesus. It was so annoying. But it got, you know, I remember the fans would boo the shit out of it because it's so annoying. Not annoying as Stephanie's theme song, though. Not that annoying. Yeah, it pretty much was a car alarm. Or just an alarm in general. Man, it was so loud. So loud and so annoying. The Good Father. Give me a break. Look at Vincente up here. because I just think this is funny, buddy, because we were talking about this earlier on. He says, besides the Winged Eagle belt, what was your other favorite WWE title design? Because mine was the Undisputed title around 2002. So there's another one. My friend, I was just saying, and I've been saying, I am one of the few people that absolutely hated the Undisputed Era title. I didn't like it. I just didn't like it because I just didn't like it. I liked the other belts previously. But whenever I say I don't like it, everybody was like, dude, what are you talking about? It's a good belt. I liked it. So I am in the vast minority here of people that do not like the belt. And we were just joking about that about an hour ago. And here you say that that's one of your favorites as well. But I never liked that title. I'll never buy a replica of it. Aside from the Winged Eagle, my favorite is the IC. I just like those old school titles, and that's the thing, like, the same reason I like those titles, I think are the same reasons other fans like yourself like the 2002 title, is because that was probably an important time in your wrestling memory. So that's a lot, I think, where a lot of fans, that's where our likes and dislikes come from, is like what's more important to us. And that time period wasn't as important to me as the 80s and 90s was, where, the next generation, that was kind of their time period. So I think that's the only reason why there's a difference in opinion with the belt. Because if I was a younger fan, I probably wouldn't care about those belts behind me. So I think that's what it's about. So I've clearly realized that the Undisputed title is not a bad title. I am irrational in my dislike for it. I'm basing my dislike on my love for the belts that it replaced. You know what I mean? So judging the belt just by itself, just like when you judge the Intercontinental title by itself today, if you just show me that title belt and you don't give it a name, then I'll be like, that's a pretty cool belt. But the fact that it's an Intercontinental title and it's no longer that, I hate the belt. So I think that's a lot of the same reason why I don't like that Undisputed title, is for reasons like that. So I fully admit that I'm in the wrong here, and I'm the dumb one. I just can't help it. Can't help the way I feel, man. Yeah, the silver ECW belt was pretty ugly. The tag team belts in ECW back in the 90s, they were the same style, the same plate as the IC. And because WWE doesn't own the intellectual rights to that design, which is another reason why I think they did away with it, because I think the belt maker or something maybe owns it. I don't know how all that shit works, but I know ECW, their tag team titles were basically 2 silver Intercontinental titles when you go back and look at them. But I got to read up and do research these days on who owns what. And, when it comes to rights to belt designs and stuff, I really don't know anything about that stuff. So I should look into it. Let me fix that. Didn't realize that was wrong. There we go. Yeah, a lot of people I didn't like the blue belt. You're talking about the 98 to 2002 belt, right? Rock, Stone Cold, and Taker. Yeah, they all hopscotch that belt. Stone Cold didn't like it. That's the reason the Smoking Skull belt was created, was because Austin did not like the blue belt. And I didn't really either, because it replaced the Winged Eagle, which I thought was just a flawless title and didn't need to be replaced. And they replaced it, and it bummed me out. And that's why. I never liked the blue belt either. But I think I like the big blue circle belt better than the Undisputed. I do. Yeah, actually, DM23, I've actually looked into it, thinking about getting maybe a custom GoodMicWork title. That's something I meant to mention earlier on as well. A lot of the YouTube channels do it. I think it might be fun for this channel to have it in the background. I will be moving in a couple of months. In the fall, at the end of September, I'll be moving, and I will have a room dedicated to this. So I hopefully will make up a nice kind of background and office setting for the future of the YouTube channel, and things like title belts can maybe play a bigger role in the background. So I've actually thought about that very thing and getting a custom belt done. I think I'm going to hit up Brian Zane and Steven Larson, guys like that, and talk to them about maybe where they got theirs done and get some advice there. But yeah, I've already thought about that, and I think it's probably something that's going to happen on the channel. I think so. Thanks again, Michael, for $5 more. Thoughts on the previous green IC that Valentine had? I like that because of my memories, man. I love that belt, and I remember, well, I didn't love that belt. I loved that was the one before that one. But when Valentine had that, Tito also carried it for a little while. Tito was the first to carry that belt, actually. But Tito and Valentine, that was one of my favorite feuds as a kid. because for some reason, much like Savage and Steamboat a couple of years later, Valentine and Tito felt super duper real to me. And I don't know why. I don't know how to explain it. But the feud captivated me as a kid for the IC title there. And I think they flopped it. I think Greg beat Tito for it, and then Tito won it back before losing to Savage, I think. But I didn't hate that belt because like it transports me back to being 8 years old again. So I didn't hate it, but nothing beats that one. Nothing beats the Brett, Shawn, and Perfect belt. That's the one. That YouTube check is having you move to La Jolla. Man, La Jolla is expensive. I used to live in Del Mar. That was expensive too. Yeah, Dre, you're here. I forgot what part of town you said you're in. I'm up in North County. I'm right off the 56. Oh yeah, Vincente for the SummerSlam 2000 pay-per-view to see the Shane McMahon stunt. So I was bottom level. I wasn't on the floor. I was up one level, maybe like 10 rows. I had great seats. So I was off kind of diagonal from the ring, but I was almost like level with the ring. So where was the hard cam that night? I think I was on the same side as the hard cam. Yeah, I was, because the entrance ramp would have been to the left. Yeah, so I was on the same side as the hard cam. So Shane's like, I would be looking this way to watch Shane fall. So he fell. I saw him in good view because I could see the whole thing, the whole tower, and I could even see the crash pad. Like, that's what a good view I had. Nothing was in my way. Nothing was obstructing it. No fans, no cameras, no nothing. I was able to see the full fall, and it looked crazy because as soon as Shane started crawling up there, you knew he was falling. So we were all kind of just like chomping at the bit. And as cool as that was, to me, it was the ladder match. The ladder match is what I take away from that show, because that was the first time I had ever seen up close gnar table bumps, like guys falling off of ladders and shit. And there was one specific bump that Matt Hardy took, a back bump off the ladder over the top rope onto a table on the floor, that I felt. When he hit the ground, I felt the vibration under my feet. And that's when I realized, oh my God, they're really falling off this shit and just landing and just killing themselves. Like the amount of pain that I was, 50 feet away, and I could feel the vibration under my feet from him taking that bump was crazy. I think I had a whole new level of respect. And I also remember the Devon fall. There's a spot in the match, I'm pretty sure it's near the end, and Devon and somebody are hanging from the belt thing. And Devon falls, and he like lands on his shoulder, and he almost like flops around with like a fish when he hits the mat, and it just looked sick. And I remember that too, because when you see him fall, I mean, I thought he broke his neck, and he was just like, convulsing or something. Like, I had no idea what was going on. I was in awe. My jaw was to the floor for that entire match. And I remember that even more fondly than the Shane McMahon bump. I mean, it was crazy. Barry, I don't remember that. ECW, The Doctor is in 1996 is the worst name for a wrestling show ever. Yeah, that's pretty bad. Who headlined that? I don't even remember. That wasn't a pay-per-view. That had to have just been a show. Yeah, because they hadn't made it a pay-per-view yet. I bought the first pay-per-view. I bought Barely Legal off pay-per-view. I remember coming home that night right after work and watching it. I walked right in the door. I think it was the opening match, and as soon as I walked in the door, they did the streamers. As soon as I walked in, I already had it on, because you had to like set your VCR to like record, and I had to have it all nice and ready. And as soon as I walked in the door, I see all the streamers and the toilet paper stuff flying in the ring for all those guys in there that I think was Taka, maybe, and Dick Togo, who we just saw on Dominion this past weekend or whatever. Terry Boy and all those guys that would eventually join Kai and Tai. I think it was them. No, I didn't like the old yellow IC belt. I mean, if it's that design, I can live with the strap, but I prefer the black strap. Oh, it was a super card. I don't even remember. That brings no bell to me. I don't know why I don't remember that. Oh, did he? Did Valentine destroy the green IC title? I'm trying to remember that, because I remember the cage match. Well, they had cage matches. I don't remember him lose. I remember Tito winning. I don't remember that. Damn, maybe I just forgot. I have to look that up, refresh my memory. Yeah, the Greg and Tito feud was fun, at least for a kid. Sabu versus RVD in a stretcher match. Okay. Oh yeah, kinda. I mean, I remember the Sabu RVD stuff, but okay, yeah, you're down there, Dre. That's right. You ain't that far from me. That's about a 20-minute little cruise down there, down the 15. How do I think about the swamp match? It sucked, man. We didn't even really know who won. What year did I start recording wrestling? Well, I would record it casually all the way in the mid-'80s. Probably 86 would be the first time I think I hit record on a VCR for a wrestling show. And back then I would tape a lot of wrestling challenges and a lot of superstars. But when I was young like that, I wasn't taping them to save them and collect them. I would tape them. And you know how tapes were back then. Well, if you're old enough, you are. You know, I lived in a family. I had siblings. I had parents and shit. So shit would get taped over. And a lot of times I would lose matches and lose shows that I would tape that would just get taped over by something else. And that's how I taped a lot of the Saturday Night's Main Events back in the day. I still have the original VHS recording of the Saturday Night's Main Event where Hogan and Savage got together for the first time with the Honky Tonk Man match and all of that. So it probably wasn't until early 90s, well, maybe late 80s, because by the time pay-per-views started, I would record the pay-per-views. I'd record the WrestleManias and the SummerSlams and anything else that I would get in the 80s and 90s. I'd record it and keep those. But the TV shows, you know, I didn't really keep track of that much until I started getting really serious about recording Monday Night Raw around 96. And that's when I made sure I had a tape in the VCR every week, and I would label them. I would get the big 8-hour tapes so I could put 3 episodes of Raw per tape on there, and then I would, you know, write the dates, and each VHS would have 3 shows on it. And I would do that for years. And if I knew then what I know now, I would not have done that. I would be like, dude, just wait until you can take your mouse and click it. Saves you a lot of time. Dream women's match. There's not many of them because the women's, it's got to be somebody from today against somebody of yesterday. And the one that would have been on the very top of my list, we saw last year with Trish and Charlotte. Other than that, women back in the day, I mean, nobody really from the 80s I would even give a shit about to see wrestle because some of them were tough. You know, Sherry and Medusa, I think, could have some awesome matches. Maybe like Sensational Sherry and Becky Lynch. Sherry and Bayley might be fun. Medusa and Asuka would be fun. But most of the, you know, the women's wrestling didn't seem to get that much better until maybe the Attitude Era when you had Trish, you had Molly, you had Victoria, you had some girls that could go, like with that knew what they were doing, Jacqueline, Chyna even, you know, in a way. So yeah, maybe Bayley and Sherry, Medusa and Asuka, Trish and Charlotte, which we saw. Who else was big? I'd like to see Sable versus Nia Jax. That would be a good one. Because we all know what Nia would do to her. Did anybody ever answer my question where Nia is? I don't even know. Did she get hurt and I forgot? What about the custom Andre the Giant title? Well, that title was the same, if I remember, because I remember when they unveiled it on TV, and they never even brought it to the ring at WrestleMania 3. It was never even out there. But I think the belt design was the same. It was just a bigger strap, is what I think it was, like to fit around Andre's massive waist. Jumping Bomb Angels versus Bayley and Sasha. Ooh, Jumping Bomb Angels versus the Kabukis. That I would pay to see. Oh yeah, Lita. Who do I want to see Lita work with? Lita and Io Shirai. Battle of the Moonsault. Chyna and Beth Phoenix would be good. Tessa and Charlotte would be good. Chyna and Asuka would be interesting. Charlotte versus Lunder Blaze. Yeah, Charlotte versus Lunder Blaze, but Medusa versus Asuka. Hey, be nice, Ronnie. Sable versus Nia in a barbed wire match. Oh, man. Rest in peace, Sable. Unless Brock does a run-in, then rest in peace, Nia. Oh, that's the best part, man. Michael, that's the best part about recording shit off of TV when you were a kid, the commercials. And there's so much stuff that I have, just random commercials, like local news spots and stuff from the town you live in. It's cool to go back and watch all that stuff. No, Zane, I don't think we're getting any word on Hall of Fame at SummerSlam. I kind of forgot about Hall of Fame. We have a whole Hall of Fame class that's Hall of Fameless. They never got inducted. So Liger and Batista and NWO and all that shit, we still got to put those guys in. Davey Boy Smith. So maybe they try to bust it out, because if they don't, we're going to have next year's WrestleMania. Now you got a double class here. What do? I feel like they're going to have to do it at SummerSlam or Survivor Series. So maybe if WWE feels like things are just confusing right now, too confusing to try to throw that together, because if they were contacting these people and be like, look, we're going to try to do a makeshift Hall of Fame. It's not going to be the same, but we want you involved. We want you to record a thing or something. I feel like we would have heard as fans. Somebody would have picked up on that already and reported that that's likely. So, I don't know. Such a shame, man. God, I wish we could at least get a Hall of Fame. Unless they put them all together next year and just do a big double class, but I think that would be tough to do. You'd be in the, the wrestlers would be in the audience for 8 hours watching that shit. Oh my God, I'm not moving anywhere far. I'm staying in town. I'm just saying, I've been in this apartment for over 3 years, so I'm going to be wrapping up business when my lease is up here in a couple months. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if the Hall of Famers got their rings either. I don't know. Ooh, Jazz versus Shayna Baszler. That would be good. Doesn't Jazz still wrestle? Huh. Yeah, those Stacker 2 commercials. Who is it, man? There's a guy who used to hang out in the chats here. He follows me on Twitter. I think it might be Troy something. He was in one of those Stacker commercials back in the day, the ones you'd see on Raw all the time. I think he lives in San Diego too, if I don't remember correctly. Anyway, Troy, if you're in the chat, say hello. Weren't you the one that was in the Stacker commercials? Yeah, just do the Hall of Fame at the Performance Center. It's going to be what they have to do. But again, do some of them, like Liger, it can't be here, for it. Does Batista actually does Batista come and do it in person? Does he even want to do that? And I think a lot of it just depends. Yeah, Ahmed Johnson, he didn't do a whole lot after WWE. He turned up in WCW for a short time. He's still around. I think he still does conventions and stuff, and he's doing okay. But yeah, he never really had anywhere to go after like 96. He got hurt. I thought WWE was going to push him huge. I thought they were going to put the world title on him. I felt like they were just really into him just because he had just a ridiculous look. But he got injured in that deal with Farouk. He's never really the same after that. You were too young to remember Stacker 2. Yeah, they were all over. They were all over Raws and SmackDown's commercials. They were like basically like a dietary supplement, like a hydroxy cut or something that like gives you energy and burns fat and all that stuff. Kind of like maybe an early version of a 5-hour energy or something like that. Probably a lot worse for you. I like how you spelled Muda. Yeah, but Ahmed early days of Ahmed, he was pretty scary and he was pretty fearless. I'll never forget that King of the Ring match he had against Goldust for the title, for the Intercontinental title, 96. And he dove over the ring post and turnbuckle like a dive, like Undertaker's big dive that he does. Ahmed did that, but at 270 or whatever he is, all muscle, and dives right over head first. No training, no performance center, no practicing this shit with a crash pad. Just balls out, dives right over the top rope. I might get paralyzed, I might not. We'll see what happens. I mean, he didn't give a shit sometimes. And part of that was really scary about him, but part of it was also really cool because he was just so intense in the things he was willing to try. And then I think he learned real quick that you're not going to have a long career if you do that. And maybe he changed that up a little bit. He gained a lot of weight as well and lost a lot of mobility there near the end. I remember by like 98. He's wearing those breathing strips on his nose and shit. He just looked out of shape. He seemed lazy. He just didn't seem like the Ahmed that he was. But man, when he debuted, I was a big fan right off the bat. I thought they needed somebody too. WWE was up against the ropes with WCW. They needed to bring in a guy that was going to be a new star, and they brought him in huge, put him over huge, and basically made him a player right off the bat. And I think Vince and everybody else and fans too had high hopes for him, but there's a few things he just didn't have, But on, the first impression of him, I was like, oh man, this guy's going to be champion. But it didn't work out. But he certainly had the look. He lacked a few other things. He lacked some of the ring skills, definitely lacked some mic skills. But, the intensity and the guy who would look good with a belt around his waist, he had all that. He's like Luger. Same thing. Yeah, Ahmed, I could understand Ahmed talk. Sometimes he was tough to hear, but if he was a little quiet, if he wasn't yelling, you could hear him. I remember he did a couple Slammy Award presentations and stuff. I understood every word. I think maybe it was like in some of his promos when he'd get a little loud, it'd be a little bit more difficult to understand him. Yeah, Ahmed's finisher was a Tiger Bomb. That's exactly what it was. Pearl River Plunge is a Tiger Bomb. I didn't know if I really liked it as a finisher. I don't like any sort of power bombs that sit down. I never liked Batista's finisher either. I didn't like the Batista bomb because it just didn't look devastating. I think it's the sit down part of it that I just was having trouble getting behind or something. But I always compared Batista's Batista bomb to Ahmed Johnson's Pearl River Plunge because I didn't think either one of them, for as big as those guys were effective of enough finishers. And I'm probably in the minority of that too, because those are good moves and everything. But, I prefer a Kevin Nash or a Sid powerbomb to a Batista one. It's just the sit down thing I didn't like. If you're going to sit down, I want you to be like the Dudley Boys coming off the top rope through a table. Then it's okay. But for regular and use that as a finisher, I don't know. I just didn't like it. And not all. Some of Batista's Batista bombs looked really good. Some guys sold it well, and he delivered it well on some guys, and then some others not really. Didn't even look like it was really all that painful, and you're beating main eventers with it. So I like the F5 much better. Much, much better. But anyway, all right, we'll hang out here for about 5 more minutes, and we'll give ourselves a solid 2 hours here on the stream, and then we'll get the hell out of here. Good to see our audience kind of back to normal after a couple of weird weeks. So I appreciate everybody hanging out tonight. Make sure you give me some likes and smash that thumbs up. Oh, by the way, I have a programming note for you. That's right. I almost forgot. I got a bunch of stuff going on this week, so including work, and I got a long day scheduled on Saturday. So we got to move the Winged Eagle one day to Sunday. So the Winged Eagle podcast this week will be on Sunday, and that'll be at the normal time it is on Saturdays at 3 o'clock Pacific, 6 p.m. on the East Coast. So just keep that in mind, but I'll put a post up that on YouTube and social media and stuff like that to remind you. But we got to move the podcast one day. And if for any reason something changes in the next couple of days and it turns out I'm not needed all day on Saturday, then we'll do it Saturday and I'll let you know. But that's the plan for right now. We got to move it to Sunday, but luckily it's not a pay-per-view weekend or anything. It doesn't really affect it. So we're just going to talk a day later, which means it might be a full week until you get me. I am working on one small video to put on the channel. I don't know if I'll have it up this week or not. Shit. I really hope not. I'm hoping you'll see me again for some sort of a stream. Maybe Friday or something, or Thursday. I don't know. I'm hoping you'll see me prior to this coming Sunday, but there is a chance you won't. So I apologize for that up front. Make sure you follow me on Twitter so you can stay connected. Stay connected for the mic work. Let's go for 3 hours. I don't know if I got it in me. I got to make dinner, man. I'm hungry. I am hungry. Take a last ride from the Great Khali. Yeah, that's not good either. What was Wade Barrett's finisher? Didn't he have the forearm thing? I thought he was okay. I don't remember, though. Oh, good. You're going on vacation and you'll be back on Sunday. That's wonderful. You'll be here just in time, WWE fan. Yeah, Victor, that's something like you look at what they used to do back then, they could never get away with or would even attempt now. But a lot of that heat, and that's the way all Goldust's feuds were back then. Every single person he was in the ring with, he'd freak him out that he had the hots for him or something. And then when Ahmed was hurt and Goldust gave him mouth to mouth and fucking kissed him, and Ahmed lost his mind. And that kind of led to the whole match and the whole angle and stuff. And Ahmed got his revenge and he won. The Intercontinental title. Oh yeah, the Wasteland. 12 hours. Maybe one day we'll do a marathon for charity. I'd almost want people involved in that though. More than just me. If I could get somebody to, we could watch, do a bunch of watch alongs or do like a 12 or 24 hour stream and do it all for charity or something. I'd be into that. Boy, I'd have to be drinking some serious caffeine. It's hard for me to stay up that many hours as an old man now. So yeah, I think I'd want someone here with me doing it. Another YouTuber or something. Next time Zane is in town, I'll make him come over here. And I spend a whole day in front of a fucking computer and we'll watch wrestling. But yeah, I think that would be better if I had someone with me. Otherwise, I think I'd bore the shit out of you. It was just me. Just me. And I don't want to talk for 24 hours straight. It's hard enough to do it for 2. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend that. Oh yeah, the bull hammer, right? What was the Wasteland? The Wasteland was a move and the bull hammer was an elbow, right? I don't remember. Wasteland, it spun, right? Didn't the Wasteland spin? I forgot what it looked like. Here's another guy that was done wrong that I just thought had stupid potential. Oh yeah, and speaking of wrestling with regret, I don't think he'd care if I mention this. We have spoken recently about collabing, so there is something in the works with us. Don't know the details on it yet, but looks like I'll be making an appearance over there on that great YouTube channel. I don't think I'm letting anything too much out of the bag here. I don't think he'll care, but we've been talking, so hopefully something will come, here shortly with some sort of a collab. And now that I'm starting to learn how to use Zoom and stuff, I should do some more just random podcasts with other guests and stuff. I've been really wanting to do that for a while, but I procrastinate and I suck, so I apologize for not having more guests on the channel. It's something that I've wanted to do for a long time. Yeah, you never liked the Unprettier. The Unprettier's tough to pull off. Unprettier's tough to pull off. It can look good if done right, but man, it's dangerous. In order to make it look right, you have to risk a lot. And that's why, who does it in what's the girl that does it? Chelsea Green does it. Doesn't Chelsea Green do it? Hers is terrible. Did you guys see I think there's footage floating around of like the first time The Rock had ever done the people's elbow and somebody's filming it, like Curtin Kyle style. And you can hear people go, that was stupid. And I remember at the time how much shit The Rock got for that dumb move. Which it looked like a devastating move when you compare it to the 5-knuckle shuffle. Oh, yeah. Fireman's carry, and he slammed forwards. Oh, yeah, that's right. So he had him like that, and he just slammed him down. Yeah, that is kind of a weird one. I think it's somewhat effective. I mean, like, if I was going to throw someone down a flight of stairs, that's how I'd do it. Throw them up on my shoulders, toss them right down. Watch them tumble. Maybe set up some bowling pins on the bottom, see how many I can get. That's right. Yeah, I think I like the hammer, the bull hammer, better than the weird fireman's carry thing. Yeah, I'd forgotten about that. I liked Wade Barrett. It's a shame. He was one of my favorites. Thought he was good. Good on the mic. They gave him that bad news gimmick, which I thought was also good, with the mallet and the podium, and then they pissed it away. Outback Jack had offense? Huh. Boomerang clothesline. I barely remember that. Oh man, you still listen to that good old WrestleMania memories that I busted out 4.5 years ago. My God, it's been a long time. Maybe I'll do it again one day. Yeah, I think Kidman did do the Unprettier. Nova from ECW was fun to watch. Unique moveset. Well, Nova was Simon Dean, right? He was also Mr. JL in WCW with like the purple mask and shit. That's who Nova was. He was fun. Oh, which looked worse? Rock's sharpshooter, Swagger's Vader bomb, or Punk's top rope elbow? Oh God, those are all pretty bad. Rock annoyed the shit out of me with a sharpshooter. Here's one thing I'll say about Rock's sharpshooter. Rock's sharpshooter was better than Sting's Scorpion Deathlock. Sting sucked at putting that move on. And Rock, I think, didn't really know how to do it, but he did it with more effect. Like, Sting would put it on so weakly, in such like this wimpy way. He'd even have his, like, he'd even be hunched over, like he's trying to do a solid, you know, to the guy he's working with by not cinching back and hurting him. But every time he put that on, he wasn't like, you know, how Brett would pull back. Rock would pull back and he'd expose his teeth. It's just like, you know. Sting would just sit there like, you know, like he's not doing anything. So as bad as Rock's sharpshooter was, it wasn't as bad as a Scorpion Deathlock. So I'm gonna keep Rock on the list, and I'm gonna say Swagger's Vader Bomb, because why are you doing that move? Like, he's big, but he's not that big. Oh, Jerry Lynn was JL. That's right. Well, there was one other. He had one other. Simon had besides Nova, he did one other thing. What was it? That's right. Yeah, Jerry Lynn was Mr. JL. But I always had Simon D or Nova in my mind with 3 gimmicks. Maybe I'm just forgetting what the third one is now. That's right, Jerry Lynn. Go watch some Jerry Lynn and RVD matches. Those are fun. Those are fun. Yeah, Rock always does it with his mouth open because he sells. That's what you're supposed to do. You know, you tell stories with your face. You tell stories with your facial expression, and you can sell offense, you know, and defense like that. You know, even when you're taking punishment, you know, you got to sell it. And Rock always did that, you know, because he looked like he was really trying to put it on you. He looked like he was really trying to cinch back on it, where Sting literally just sat there. No intensity. He's not shaking his head. He's not going like that. Nothing. He's just sitting there. And it drove me crazy about Sting, especially when Brett would do it, you know, so convincingly, and Sting just sucked at it. Sorry, Sting. I love you. You're still a legend. You just didn't know how to do that move. No, he wasn't Simon Diamond. I liked Simon Diamond. Yeah, well, there's some guys. I mean, Ric Flair broke his back in a plane crash. You know, you're not going to want to kill him in the sharpshooter. A lot of his back bumps and his sharpshooters, he kind of have to lean to that one side. I think that was all a result of him suffering that injury. You know, but provided you're healthy and you don't have any back issues, you know, which might have been the case for Sting with some of his opponents, like Hogan, you can't break him in half. But there's some guys that Sting should have like really wrenched back on and stuff, and he just didn't do it as good. Yeah, I'm not saying put anybody's life in danger or anything like that. If you're injured or something, go easy on him. But if you can take it, make it look good. Why wouldn't you? He did. He treated it like a rest hold. That's the way it felt, just the way he was kind of sitting there, you know, with it. So, and I love Sting. It's just, you know, as somebody that liked Bret Hart so much and just appreciated that sharpshooter move, to watch Sting do it in WCW drove me crazy because I'm like, you're doing it all wrong. Oh, my God. Cena's crossface wasn't good, but again, he had some good ones. You know, because it started out like as an STF, right? And he'd hook the leg and he'd call it the STFU. When applied properly, like the one I did a review on the show, the match with Umaga. He pulled off the ring ropes and everything, and, you know, that was great. So sometimes, and I think maybe in that couple of, I know there's a couple of instances where I can see Cena doing that move and he's like bleeding, maybe that I Quit match with JBL or something. So Cena could make him look good. But then there were also times where it looked like shit, you know, where he wasn't like cinching back at all. So I think with that, it depended on the situation, where it felt like Sting, his was bad every single time. John Cena was sometimes good. Oh yeah, Mabel almost hurt a lot of guys. I remember Mabel hurt Diesel in 95. Nash has told that story about he just basically did a sit down on his back, and he already had a bad back, and he's like, whatever you do, don't do that sit down thing on me. And then he did it, and messed up. I think he tore an abdominal muscle or something like that on Nash, and that pissed him off. And Mabel was hurting a lot of guys too. He injured the Undertaker. And he had to wear that mask for a while and all that stuff. And I remember they really lucked out with that, because I don't remember how the story or how it went now, but I think it was they did an angle on Raw where Mabel and Yoko were trading leg drops on Taker. And I think after that, like immediately after that taping, because WWE plays it off like that's where the injury happened, but I don't think it happened there. I think it happened at either a live event or another TV after that. So after they do that Raw, where thankfully you got two giant guys dropping legs on The Undertaker, after that, he legit gets his orbital bone smashed. And so they were able to use that Raw footage as the reason for why he has to wear the mask. Like, he got really lucky. I'm pretty sure the angle that happened on Raw, because Taker wouldn't have gotten hurt and then wrestled without the mask. You know, that would be dangerous. He wouldn't be able to take those leg drops with a broken orbital socket, you know, that wouldn't a broken orbital bone. So it had to have happened after. And then they were able just to use that as a reason to put the mask on him. And it kind of worked out. They landed on their feet in that scenario, if I have it right. I'm pretty sure that it did not, that the injury didn't happen in that Raw angle. It happened somewhere else. But they were able to work it out and use it. I could be wrong on that. I'm just trying to remember. But I remember watching that Raw on TV that night. Mrs. Yes kicks. Yeah, they kind of suck too. Yeah, oh, that's right. Austin did criticize it on his podcast, didn't he? Well, he was right, because some of those look like shit. But I think almost what made Austin upset is that maybe Austin knows that Cena can do it if he wants. He just wasn't. Like, some of his they looked lazy. He's like, come on, man. Make it look better than that. Yeah, Trouble in Paradise. Yeah, any kick, I guess, could technically work. I mean, I don't know if a Trouble in Paradise would be any sillier than a super kick. But yeah, whenever you do something like that, you want it to look good. And you want it to look like it fucking hurts. Like that, at this thing, I think sometimes in wrestling, especially with Vince McMahon, he cares more about how it looks than if it actually looks like it hurts type of thing. That's why I don't like the Batista bomb and stuff. And I'm like, man, he needs something a little more devastating than that. Super kick worked, but yeah. You know, like Pele kicks and shit like that. You know, sometimes it doesn't always look good. Is that how it happened, Michael? Mabel faced Taker in the face. Maybe he punched him in the face. Oh, I just assumed it was a leg drop because Mabel's so big. I just felt like he timed it or positioned it wrong and cracked him. So he just full-blown punched him? Damn. Even worse. Nia Jaxed Undertaker? I mean, even Becky Lynch didn't get a broken orbital bone, you know? Well, I got a cat making weird noises over there. Anywho, all right. Well, I think I'm going to go ahead and get out of here now. I hate to strand 500 people in the chat, but I got to get out of here and make some dinner because I'm hungry and it's 10 o'clock. So Greg needs food. I want to thank you guys for hanging out tonight and shooting the shit. We didn't have to spend too much time on last night's shitty pay-per-view or on Monday Night Raw. We spent the last hour here answering questions and talking about random stuff. So I hope you guys have a great week. Enjoy the next few days. I'll try to be up here on something with the channel this week. Hopefully, if not, there is a chance you will not see me until Sunday on the Winged Eagle podcast. But make sure you follow me on Twitter and subscribe to social media and everything. I'll be live tweeting on Wednesday and probably during SmackDown on Friday as well. And you'll hear from me. And if I can, I'll get some sort of a video or a live stream up. And of course, I'll be here if any sort of big news breaks throughout the course of the week. But I wish you all well. Thanks for hanging out tonight. And I'll talk to you real soon. Be good. Peace.